Tucumcari Lodgers Tax Board annual budget meeting to order. Now, will you please give the roll call?
Roll call. Matt?
Here.
Mike? Here. Barry?
Here.
Alex here. Lila's on
She will be
video call.
joining us again. She's trying to work the phone number. Okay, so let's see, so the agenda, a couple of changes.
You want an extra agenda? I have it on my phone, on that staff here now.
Had a couple of extra agenda.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I appreciate you.
Okay, so the changes would be for, let's see, Roman numeral 4, number 8, the 11:45 a.m. Tucumcari Main Street presentation will not include Tucumcari Railroad Museum. So we can remove that. And then for number 9, in that same item, additional applicants. The one that we do have is the Disc Golf Club presenting for the shootout at 6 shooters, or as I always call it, shootout at 6 shooters item. So that will be the last presentation. We will keep presentations to 15 minutes or less. Less is better. We can just keep questions very focused and relevant, and we do need to keep the current virus situation and as a focus of what we're asking, because that does apply to some of these events. The ones that are coming up sooner than later. So then we'll have really minimal time to discuss the budget afterwards. So the more time we can save with the presentations, the more time we have at the end to discuss. Any questions before we begin? Okay. So we will start with Carmen here for the Chamber of Commerce.
Did you get the updated?
I did, but it was after I was already here. I haven't had time to look at it. It was kind of for it wasn't really for the meeting.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea of.
I'll throw it down for you guys, but our total spending for last year was $26,968.74. So thank you for being here. So while we go into this, I do want to recognize the COVID situation. I know that is an important thing. So I did try and keep our request as manageable as possible. The reason that this is higher than our spending for last year is because we are, the chamber at least is currently anticipating taking over the advertising in the gap space between Sunny 505 and the advertising committee that's being done through Tucumcari Main Street, getting all of that together. I've spoken with Connie. I'm on a part of that committee, and just getting the branding and such together for that is supposed to take several months, which is going to put us into our tourist season. And then once that advertising is done, it's going to be however much longer until that is actually put into practice. So you have the marketing materials, and then you have to create the campaigns and all that. So this advertising budget is in mind for that situation. In your packet that I sent out, we did have several updated versions of our ads. We had an updated version of our mural map in there as well for you guys to look at. And these are all drafts that we're working on. I was hoping to have more solidified ads to present to you guys. What I'm imagining for our advertising is having pictures of people at Tucumcari places. I was hoping to, within the last month or so, to go by different restaurants, different hotels, taking pictures of people enjoying the many things that we have here. People in the museums, people eating at the restaurants, people, hanging out at the motels. Obviously, that I got a little derailed in my plans, but I think that's a common thing with everyone. My hope is that once this is all cleared up, we'll be able to go and take those pictures and have those in there, and really give people the opportunity to look at what makes Tucumcari so great instead of just static photos of like the ones I have, which are ones we've had before. Pictures of murals, pictures of the mountain. We need people actually interacting with Tucumcari to show why you need to come here. We're also moving into the online advertising. I have our Google budgets set up for our advertising. We've already had, I think already 160 something hits on that advertising for the month of April. So we're getting attention. With all of the stuff with this, I want to try and push our online advertising through our social media, through Google, all of that information, because we don't have to have people physically going and picking up advertising materials. You did have, I don't know if that was included in your packet, but I did include a breakdown of our magazine budget to say where that money would be going to. So, I know that this is a trying time, and we're not going to have as much money to go around for everybody, but it's a sentiment that's been said in this office multiple times that we can't miss out on another season. And just because we're off to a slow start, everyone's off to a slow start. So I see that not as we're at a detriment. It's that we're on even playing ground with everybody for a change, because nobody's getting to us. So if we can take advantage of that and, bring people in, I think we're going to be doing well. Do y'all have any questions? Yeah.
On the mural map,
Mhm.
the advertisement, I thought I saw Rockin' Wise.
They're old ads
Okay.
that our advertiser is using some of the older ads that she has available,
Okay.
just to hold spaces. Like I said, that is a draft, and all of those
Okay.
will be resold,
Okay.
and updated. If we need to do smaller ads, bigger ads, any of that can be done pretty
That was
easily.
one question. I want to make sure that hadn't went to print.
No.
Yeah.
That's Richard's old ad for the Safari that I hate.
Yeah,
Is there-
no, it's a
I want
draft.
that in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a deadline for that? For
No, not yet.
People to, or they just have to contact you?
Yes. Once I've got the designs set, then we'll go out and get the advertising. I'm not going to go and say I need ads to be switched in while we're still getting all the stuff with our fonts and our layouts and stuff done, because that's more time that takes that away from being printed and being sent to us.
How much are those ads?
I believe the last time we did it, the back page ones were $250, and the smaller ones were $150. And the reason we changed the layout for that was because of because I didn't like the way that the usability of it, that we had all of the locations on one side, but then when you were looking at the locations, it was folded over the actual map. So you couldn't look at the locations and then the street map at the same time. And it also I didn't think it gave the ads that we were selling enough visibility. So this way, when you pick it up, you have the front page, the back page is ads, and then as soon as you open up, you have another set of ads. And then the inside is all the murals. And then we get into the whole mural stuff, and then you just have all of that in one place, and you don't have to be flipping back and forth. And how do I read this? Where am I? Sort of stuff.
I didn't get any of the packets, but it's just because I've been running around. So if they were emailed to me, it's on me. So I'm just asking basically for clarification. How much money are y'all asking for this committee?
So let me pull it up. I have that. So our total amount that we're asking for is $3,485.
And it's still through the chamber. This is where this year is going to be a little different. We have to figure out, because it's marketing money that could conceivably, that's what we need to discuss if some of this can come from executive. Because like I said, we are at a very low budget right now.
Well, I thought, with this committee and stuff, I thought that's basically where we were going to come through when it comes to marketing. What the committee was going to be looking at through the executive side, because that was almost like
Yeah, this is kind of the stopgap because the committee's not up and running. So Carmen's still, she's presenting this through the chamber.
Yeah.
Continue doing some of the things, some of the efforts she was already doing. And so that's why this one's a little different. So we'll
Yeah.
have to discuss when we get to the budget discussion later.
And that's why I have, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry. That's why on my thing, I don't have several items listed on here again. Our mural map that we're reprinting, I have that on our current budget for this year. I don't have it on next year's budget because I'm expecting at that point we'll have that committee set up. Hopefully the chamber will be a part of getting all that together, and then that committee would be taking care of doing all the funding for that through whatever method that is. So that's built into my my budget plans for this. So I don't have a reprinting of that. We have the visitor's guide listed on here only to print to match the current style of the new guide that we're doing for the murals.
That's one of the questions I had, which I agree they should match, but you just had a lot of new ones printed. What was the printing on that one?
That was the
last
old
batch?
style.
Yeah, but what was the number of them?
It was like 5,000.
Okay, well, I have an entire box of them that you gave me that I'll never use. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if
Well, and
there's just
that's,
a lot of unknowns this year. I don't know
Yeah.
how much effort we even put into tourism this year. We don't know what we're going to get. I want to be prepared for those that do come for sure, but.
yeah, and that's, you know,
just
that
not
is
there where to test them.
that is always the issue with print materials. I have, when I got to the chamber, I had boxes upon boxes of materials from 2008, from 2017, from multiple businesses in town that brought by, you know, flyers and handouts for their business that were no longer in business, or they had changed contact information. That's the risk you run into when you print paper materials, is you're going to have stuff left over, stuff is out of date.
Um,
I have a question.
Mhm.
Your logo, is that gonna be on all of, is it like, all of the print material?
So
or-
the drafted logo, if that's something you guys are interested in us doing on our print materials instead of the chambers, the old swoopy logo, then yeah, that we can totally do that. That's something we've discussed doing. On the, I know, I wish you guys had it. It's really cool. So the draft of our mural map has the old logo on the bottom. Instead of that, we can switch it out and do the new logo instead. It's just a matter of saying what piece of art we want in that position. You know, we can do that until such a time as that changes or is updated by the official marketing group, whatever that becomes.
Okay, my last question. How much of the current fiscal year's budget still remains to be used?
So we are at,
I know you've been paid up to 75%.
Yeah.
But I know it's set up differently with you. You're getting a monthly payment. How much has actually been used, or how much remains?
so our current spending is at $9,634.23. I'm expecting our mural maps, once those are reprinted, to be about 10. Our budget for that per month is, I think, $2,000.
How many existing mural maps do we still have in?
I am down to my last like 2 boxes.
Okay.
So that's why I'm reprinting them, is because we do need them. You know, that's why our visitor's guide is on there with a star, that if we want to reprint them, then that's how much it would be. If not, then you can take that out.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out any way to save or postpone
Mhm.
some things right now, because we still have no idea what the summer is gonna look like. Okay, any other questions for Carmen?
You still have time.
A little bit of time.
Well,
The shorter the better the presentation, you know.
Yeah.
yeah,
won't
we're just
leave you
trying to-
hanging.
How much is your total request?
As I said at the beginning of my presentation, it is 33,485.
485.
Well, okay, then.
So I really wish I had those ads to show you guys, because I think I've talked to Connie about some of those pictures that we could do that I think would be just really cool. Some of the images and the graphics that were captured by like Sunny 505 in that video, where you have the kids playing out at the disc golf course or running through the museums. Those are really great images, but you can't, they're on video and they're online, and we just need to put those from there to there and just show off. because we've got a lot of good things here. Any last minute questions? Final thoughts?
For the, sorry, this I said last one, but is there an option for the chamber to also include Facebook and Instagram for
Yes.
now, along with Snapchat and the other things you're doing?
Yes, that's included in our current budgets that we have. Our Snapchat filter that we have. Let me see if I can pull up the usages for that. Snapchat filter usage. So that Snapchat filter usage that we've had for about a year now, as of whenever I turned this in. So I got this the day that I turned this application in. We had 98,000 views of our Tucumcari Snapchat filters. So those were people in Tucumcari taking those pictures, sending them to someone else. So it's 92,000 people or 98,000 people that are seeing that picture. So that's how many people saw it, and how many people used it was 2,000. So we're getting, quite a bit of use out of that.
Okay.
And that's only about $2,003 that we're doing with that, just for Snapchat. Our Facebook postings and boostings, I was planning on starting that with some of the events that were going to come up, because, to keep sharing those out, but we've had some delays with those. But we'll have all that figured out, and we'll be doing that shortly.
Okay. Well, this will be part of the committee's work, but to combine all these different social media accounts, because you're doing some, Richard Talley's still doing some, just getting it all unified. But that'll be part of the bigger plan, so we won't get into that now.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyone else? All right.
Got 26 seconds. Can you tap dance?
Not in these heels. They're too tall for that.
Thank you, Carmen.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good afternoon and stay safe.
Next up is, could you send Brandon in
Yeah.
on the way out? Next up will be Wheels on Fire. Brandon Golson.
The positive thing is we're 5 minutes early on Brandon's presentation.
Pretty good. I really hate doing it this way, but
Oh, I think it's better because they can't, when we're discussing, they can't get like
I know. Control some of the chaos from last year.
Oh.
This is like American Idol auditions.
It kind of felt like it. Who's Simon? That's what I want to know straight off the bat.
Yes,
And I see any golden tickets? That's what I'm looking for.
yes. We're from Hollywood.
Brandon Goldson with Wheels on Fire. This year, I don't envy any of the event planners. It's a tough year. It's a tough year for business. Understand that, but we're excited that September, our event is at the end of September. We're hoping to be through with a lot of this stuff. The front side of the year, most cycling events have been canceled or pushed back. So we think that's going to give us more numbers of area cyclists who want to come and want to get out. This year, we've also combined with two other events, one in Dumas and one in Plainview. We're creating a 3-event weekend called the Tex-Mex Triple Century Challenge. And we're working together to share rider information, to share publicity, hoping that we increase attendance at all 3 of our events. We're also going to do some special prizes for anybody who completes all 3 of those back-to-back weekends. 2019, we saw numbers increase as we have each year. Our goal this year is to hit that 180. That's our goal. Last year, just some quick numbers. We thought it was really good. Last year was our most competitive year. And take, for example, our 50-mile fast females. The winner was from New Mexico, second place was Texas, and third place was Oklahoma. And through social media, you're seeing those three ladies still fight back and forth who's going to be the winner and getting some other people involved. So through that, there's some excitement. Our social media is going to be our big thing this year as far as our push again. At the front side of all this stuff going on, we're trying to be wise stewards with money we're giving, because we don't want to spend money and not know at the end for advertising where we're going to be at. We hate to spend money at the front side advertising and at the end of the year not be able to have our event. So right now we're targeting our known people, our email lists, our known people on our pages. So we're trying to be on the front side of this wise with what monies we have, but we are very hopeful that this stuff will be done and our event will draw more crowds than we have in the past. All I have, I'll answer any questions. Yes, sir.
So in light of last year's event and in light of what's going on right now, your expectation is you could have many more riders
Yes.
exceed that.
Yes.
So with that, how are you targeting that? Again, you mentioned that you're concerned about spending money that for an event that may not be able to happen.
Right.
So how are you targeting that?
So through the years, we've developed about a 500 name email list that we send our stuff out to. We have connections with all the local bike shops, whether it's in New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and we disseminate information through them, also through our social media pages that we use. So through that, we are getting the word out, and we're trying at this point. It's a tough time to be an event planner because you don't want to just negate people's fears of the future, but you also want to stay relevant to what's going to happen. So that's how we're kind of targeting this now. We're staying on people's minds and using things such as cyclists have always been social distancing, and I truly think that there's going to be a resurgence to people wanting to be small town again after being stuck in big cities, and being able to come here as a cyclist and not deal with traffic and be in a small town to begin with. I think it's going to be a huge draw to us this year, especially.
How about a cap? Are you concerned about a cap?
We've capped our event this year at 200, thinking that will help us create some front side excitement for people wanting to get in and be under that cap, but also it makes it easier for us to plan. It's hard to plan for an unknown event, whether you're planning for 200 or 300, there's a huge difference in things you have to order. So, yeah.
I think it's commendable that we got 3 communities partnering up for this. I know, and unfortunately, I'll have to abstain from any voting when it comes to the commission for this because I do sponsor this event. But I do know for a fact that as this event's grown, and I've watched it grow from double digits to triple digits, people are staying more and more here. Last year, a lot stayed in town. They stayed in town also, which I'm sure we're going to hear Fired Up. They stayed in town for Fired Up. It's partnered up really well, and having 3 weekend. I personally can see where they'll leave Dumas, Texas, and be up here 3 days from before the race, so they can get used to this course because they're already out and about. They're not going to drive all the way home and come back. Chances are they're going to be here a day or 2 or 3 days early. And I think I know I don't need to be, I should be standing up there on that, but this has been, I think, one of our most successful events that Lodgers Taxes has participated with. So anyway,
I think this year with the virus and everything, was one of our first events that we can really hit off, for the new fiscal year.
The only question I had was the item regarding swag. Are you still, you said 1,700 as part of the ask? Is that still going to be somewhat offset by sponsorships?
Yes. So we moved that up there. Our sponsors are local businesses, and we know right now local businesses are struggling because of where we're at right now. And so we moved that swag up in there. We're going to offset as much as we can but we also want to be able to provide quality stuff for our riders, because that's part of the signature of the event. When people come here, they're not expecting what they get in a small town. And when we can just blow them out of the water, what a small town can do, it leaves a good taste in their mouth about Tucumcari. You know, they go home and they see Tucumcari differently than some small town on I-40 that they just jump off of Love's and get gas. You know, all of a sudden now it's we're rolling through 66 and we're checking out all the stuff that this town has to offer.
Okay. Anyone else?
Brandon, what's your total last,
Excuse me?
what's your total, expense?
3,700.
Thank you.
I'll start reading those off before people present, so everybody knows. Okay. I think that's everything. Thank you, Brandon. I agree with everybody. It's one of the best events we have.
Thank you. And I do think September is going to be great around here. You know, I think fired up this stuff. I think people are going to be ready to get out and do some stuff. So I think September is going to be awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Do I need to send somebody in?
Either Joe or Michelle with Rattler Reunion, whoever's here.
Okay. Give them a dirty look like we're in a bad mood.
I got it.
Okay,
They're all
so,
watching on Facebook.
Oh, that's right.
so Rattler Reunion is asking for a very specific amount, $7,255.59.
72.
72.55.59. Last year they were awarded 4,000. Hello.
Hello, how are y'all this morning?
Morning,
Get my
okay.
time of day correct. I am Michelle James. I'm here representing the Rattler Reunion Tucumcari Alumni Association. I'm expecting David Hale anytime, so he might be coming in as well. We're doing this jointly.
Sorry, we're actually running at a schedule, which is good.
Yay?
That's what we wanted to do. But yeah, sorry if that threw you off.
No worries.
Alright, so we have everybody's had a chance to read the application, everyone on the board. So had a chance to read through. You just want to give us an idea of what you're planning for this year, anything different in addition to previous years?
Honestly, since we submitted the application, we haven't had a meeting. We do have a meeting coming up this Saturday to discuss some of our ideas and plans. This time of year, we only meet once a month, so we don't have, some groups have amended game plans already. We don't quite have that. I've spoken with several of the board members, and we're not quite ready to amend the higher authorities.
Yeah, so far, I think the last thing I've seen canceled was the end of May. That's the Mexico Route 66 Association Motor Tour canceled as of yesterday. So we kind of reached the end of May now with cancellations. So now
I know we're just kind of,
so
we figure it's not a whole lot more to continue on planning and keep our event scheduled in the meantime, rather than get close to it and say, oh, we didn't plan. So it's just to keep rolling kind of thing. We are going to be looking at, in our board meeting that we have scheduled for Saturday, doing some things a little differently. We seek sponsorships, and our sponsorship funding is down over 2/3 of the way down. We've only received 1/3 of what we received last year in the way of sponsorships. So as any good business owner would know, there's only two ways to make money. You increase your income or decrease your expenses. And that's the way we're going to be looking at it, is we've got to do one of the two. That we really can't increase our income, but we can decrease our expenses. So we're going to be looking at a few things that we could possibly do to make that happen.
okay. One thing that's come up before, and it wasn't you presenting at that time, so I'll just ask. I know we questioned the necessity of actually printing and mailing materials as opposed to just doing digital versions.
That's actually one of the presentations that I have to present to the board for our meeting on Saturday. We're going to be looking at some options. We usually do a printed Rattler Reunion Annual, mainly because we have quite a bit of the people that come for the Rattler Reunion that are an older population, that a pen drive will be very obscure to them. So one of the things we're looking at is possibly putting the data on a pen drive. doing mass emails, doing a lot more communication as far as that goes to get these brochures, booklets out there, even if it's different. Sometimes different is what we have to go with. And that is one of our bigger expenses in the whole Alumni Association production is the printing of the booklets. So that is something it's on the agenda for our meeting to look at and discuss and try to figure out what we're going to do to try to make it work.
Maybe already thought of this, but maybe having an option that if somebody wants a print version, there's a cost attached to it.
We have. That's just a very difficult thing to attach a cost to until we have an idea of how many we're going to do, because printing is absolutely correlated to the number of prints you're going to have. And I know it would be hard to call a printer and say, give me an estimate on 20 books, because you got to go with a low number. Then your price is going to be high, and it well, if you were to tell your Rattler Reunion people, hey, if you want a printed book, it's going to cost you $25, they're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't need any. I didn't need one at that expense. So we don't want to do that. We do want to offer options, and we are definitely going to be open to that for some that are.
They actually, and again, this is something I've got to abstain from when it comes to voting, so I can kind of
Help me out.
elaborate a little bit. You know, the Alumni Association has moved in some very positive ways in the last couple of years. And we know our biggest expense has been this publication. And we've looked at adding the Golden Rattler into the one publication, which will cut costs, as well as we have a certain percentage from the amount of people that pre-register, we go a certain percentage over, and that's it. Whereas in the past, we had an abundance of it, and that was last year we actually went into the black using these methods. They've taken some very positive steps in the way of, trying to, unfortunately, sometimes, we do have an older generation that are starting to learn some of the emails, and we have already looked at that going into digital. Before in the past, we didn't charge for the Golden Rattlers, and now as of last year, they have to pay in advance $5 to have a Golden Rattlers book. So, and that's very important to the older generation. They look forward, believe it or not, they look forward to getting that publication every year. And that definitely is one that it's to take it digital. They're not understanding that part of it yet, but the Alumni Association has been looking in those directions. And,
we spend approximately $9,000 a year. I think you can tell by our pre-event budget, $4,800 for the mailing of the Golden Rattler Directory, and $4,400 for mailing of the Rattler Alumni Directory. Those are two of our major expenses, but we have really trimmed those down. At one point in time, we were spending $12,000 on one publication and $8,000 on the other publication. We do reach a lot of people, but there were some names in the database that had been deceased for 10 years and still receiving the publication. So through some scrupulous work on the database, we've really trimmed that down to make it more effective.
You guys keep track of like average age of participants?
No, we don't. No,
you really don't know.
It's hard to gauge an age because like Saturday morning parade, you're going to have John Doe from the class of 2010, and he's got 10 of his kids riding on the float there, but there's no way to register them or count them or include them. It's hard to get to an average age. Right. There's some that may even come to town, stay with their parents, and they only come to the free events. And that way they avoid the expense of the annual expense of coming. And so there are some, to answer your question, no, I don't think we have ever gotten to an actual average age, but we do on any given time. If you go out to the Rattler Reunion, you can see that the age that's gathering there, I would reckon, is in the 50 to 60 age average, because we do have some that are out there in their 70s and some that are out there in their 30s. So it's quite a huge range.
Okay. Anyone else?
So you showed that you went into the black by $300, right? So
Yes.
you were doing something right.
We hope so.
Yeah. So, and the plans that you have for this year sound even more positive.
We hope so. We've had a reorganizational 3 years ago, And ever since we had a reorganization a few years ago, and ever since then, we have really taken a good hard look at it, what it would take to sustain keeping Rattler Reunion going. That's the goal, is keeping it going. We're not out to make a profit by any means. I mean, we're glad we're in the black. Most years we're in the red, but we want to sustain and keep it going because it is a big draw to the area of people that are coming in.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, oh, would you send in, who's next?
Benji.
Oh, it's not Gary.
Nope. Are you with?
Okay, well, if no one's here, I mean, we are ahead.
Rockin' Route 66 is out here. Do you want me to send him in?
Yeah, send him in.
He said, come on in if you don't mind.
I'm not the chairman, but
TJ's not out there?
I think he's the only one out here.
Well, check, see if there anybody's in cars.
I don't see anybody.
Okay.
Well, we're ahead. It's okay. So it kind of goes back on track, so. Like I said, Amasis is working as well so far.
I might do this next year like this one.
So,
Good, how are you guys?
let me,
Hey, good to see you guys again.
sorry, let me preface around here with, and everybody has the amount, so. So Rocket Route 66 is requesting the same as last year, 23,500.
Everyone have a printed copy?
Last year they got 20K, right? And this year,
That's what, yes, that was what they
I
received.
got my years mixed up.
Will you keep a stack for Lila? Or buy to her after we're done. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a whole set. Is there another? I don't know what that is. Yeah, it is. So, okay. I think we're ready.
Sure. Good to see everyone again, and hope everyone's staying healthy. So the focus, of course, is to continue and to expand and to grow the festival Rockin' Route 66. Inaugural year was this past year with great turnout, great notes to continue to expand and to grow. At the same time, trying to be continuing in line with the city on some of the bigger goals of the city of how to promote it, focus on the Route 66 aspect, the character of the town itself, the amazing portions of what's to offer here locally and also in surrounding areas. So our objective is to lock in dates all the way through the 100-year anniversary of Route 66. And that being said, the main focus is with doing that is it's the only way to really obtain the sponsors that are needed to very much generate a world-class kind of event. Of course, highlighting what we've coined as the heartbeat of Route 66 and utilizing that in all the campaigns, moving forward. A lot of people have already planned out a 100-year anniversary in other states. And of course, I chuckle at things when you put in locations like Chicago, which only has a sign, yet there's some great things in Illinois as far as Route 66 is concerned. But to me, as you travel the route, so much of the treasures are really here inside the Midwest as you head out further out west, and you really can, I'll say, more connect with real America and the people that are here. It's not like you're inside a big city and kind of get lost in the shuffle and like a St. Louis or anything. So we mapped out, of course, keeping it very much routine as far as that last weekend in June. Want to keep it very consistent so people can plan ahead. You have a lot of return visitors already. A couple of hotels have already sold out for this year. Of course, really want to focus on the years to come, during the proposal, but as well, there are things that we do need to focus on as far as the pandemic that's going on and what are state by state doing and international travel and so forth. As we continue to grow, we want to, of course, continue to accentuate different portions of town. We want to bring in higher caliber entertainment, which of course is where the sponsorship and planning ahead. If we can make partnerships with companies like Gretsch Guitars or, focus in on even the vintage trailer aspect and get either Shasta on board or Airstream. Once you start getting in these larger capacity. Another thing that we're doing is trying to get in line with New Mexico True, with the State Tourism Board. We are in hopes of being awarded the official branding for New Mexico as New Mexico's Route 66 Festival. We're at the beginning stages of that. We've had a conversation, which was very positive already, but then at the same time, I was supposed to have a meeting yesterday with some folks from New Mexico True, and of course it got postponed just because of the situation that we're in currently until May the 7th will be the next meeting. I open it up. With some of our proposals, because I'm sure everyone's going to ask, of course, financials is always key. We believe still, just as day one, a huge responsibility falls on our shoulders as we grow. The commitment, from support of the city needs to be maintained as consistent. So we are not asking year after year as funding for it to grow, or we want to keep it very, very cost effective and consistent across the board. So,
are you getting any feedback from folks about this year's event?
So this year's event, it just depends on who you talk to. Our entertainers that we work with are, of course, in our box. Our vendors are in our box, rooting, cheering, crossing fingers, ready to do anything and everything, to move forward. We're all at I call it a poker table. Some of the cards that are on the table look actually very, very well. Some of the cards on the table, I'll say one card, which is the pandemic, is the bad card. It's like a 2 of hearts or something. But we're trying to be very mindful of local business. We've adjusted ticket pricing. And then as you guys have the postcard with your packets, on the reverse side of it also is a $10 off coupon. Again, trying to, come up with creative ways that we can give something back to everyone that will be in attendance. And Lowe's has been extremely positive. Had a great conversation with Veronica, but they'll be our local main outlet to put up these coupons, just as if you're inside a bigger city and you had something like a Six Flags or something of that nature. Basically, took that creative idea just from there. But we really want to give back to, to the locals and make it, an event that's both for locals as well as for the travelers coming in.
And of course, it's important to keep in mind, this is application for 2021. So we're not talking about, I'm just wondering how this year is important to next year, though, is that keep momentum going from the first year. We definitely want this year's event to happen. The challenge of, that makes an additional challenge to next year of almost having to reboot again.
Well, the great thing is what we have seen inside the years past. We were able to present to the city how professional our team is. We had over 12 different countries that we could personally track attend the festival. Some of them joined in our fun challenge of traveling the entire route. Obviously, with this being the destination, we pulled from over 13 different states, for the inaugural year. And that's our continued focus. We'll see what tools that we can work with the state of New Mexico. And then, of course, just our resources as far as how we target, travelers and I'll say a niche market to the degree of hot rodders, motorcyclists, and then music enthusiasts.
As an example, just a scenario, if this year's event is canceled, would you be using that money to promote next year's event as it's a 95th year event?
That would not be up to them.
Oh,
That would be up to the commission.
commission,
Yeah,
okay,
because it's a refund. It's
Okay.
not that, not a refund, but it's a reimbursement.
Sure.
So they have to use the money. So
Okay.
they can't just hang on to it till the next year.
Oh, no, like using a portion of it to
Well, that
advertise
falls into the
Same.
commission,
commission.
yeah.
Okay.
which we've been in discussions about that.
Okay.
In a positive way.
Yeah,
If, if I can still put in and interject, as well as in the proposal, and the offer still stands to any of the other events and festivals that happen in town. Our goal is to promote Tucumcari. That's why we're here. Al, if that situation is there, we would love to be able to work, once again, coincide with the remaining events, with all of Tucumcari moving forward. I know that there's a new tourism board that is being created. How can we lend our expertise in the areas that we know have made an impact on our event that could lend over into any of the other festivals and, again, draw attraction to Tucumcari. That's the ultimate goal.
One question that's comes up periodically is about your desire to have a physical presence here in Tucumcari. How's that going? What have been the challenges of making that happen?
Well, obviously we have the small awareness across the street from your motel. The owner of that property has been absolutely amazing to work with and talk with. We do have something that is very agreeable. Again, not foreseeing all the conversations were prior to the last several weeks. But right now, as far as a rental option, that is highly a likable continuance of growing that location. And again, enjoyed some time with some other locals that have been here all their lives, driving around, talking about properties, talking about history. At the end of the day, I always look at things in realistic terms. So when someone wants something that's completely unrealistic for an actual value, of a property, I have to, keep those things in mind, whether we physically want to be here or not, and look at, whether it's just renting or whether it's a physical investment. Hopefully it will be both.
Anyone else?
What's expected growth, year over year? What do you think?
We're going to see, to me, peaks and valleys. We're going to see banner years. Next year should be a banner year, even with everything that's going on. I've talked to some hotel owners, two of which are sitting here. Some are not. Obviously, international will go down, but it's almost a blessing because they're not going to be impacted like we are, and they'll have more time, and they're probably going to invest more into the 95th anniversary and be able to experience a lot more. So obviously the banner years, are the 95th anniversary and the 100th. Not that this is just from, I guess what I've seen from other major events like Sturgis that we physically work. After you hit that banner year, like with Harley Davidson's 115, we had, I think it was in the amount of 300,000 people right there in front of us while we were doing our shows. Well, then the very next year at 116, we were lucky to have 70,000 people collectively in Milwaukee. So, the 101 will taper off, obviously. But if we're smart about it, that doesn't mean that it's still a loss. We should just be collectively and communicate with each other as far as a town and preparation, like do not buy X amount of food or X amount of liquor because we're going to see a decline in people. And that's where we'll do our very best to communicate, experience. But I truly see 95, no matter what, a great travel year on the route. I would almost see it just very steadily climb. Maybe that 99 year very well might have like a slight dip, but I would tend to believe that we're going to see a continued, increase all the way through the 100 year.
And if you look at Sturgis's model, that's exactly what happened from 70 to 75. The 75th anniversary was gigantic.
Yep. And then of course, I mean, there's going to be a dip. I mean, this year's the 85th. I work with the stunt rider. I'm his road manager. What can they do to make that 85th magical? And I'm sure they're having several discussions, just as we are today about, the plans and everything. But
Okay.
I know his 15 minutes is up. Can I interject?
Sure.
Okay. I'm hoping that we don't get this canceled. I think this will be the first event if we are able to do it. And I think not for the sense of revenue, but for the sense of the community needs a morale booster, this would be effective. I was looking through this. Are you asking for a contract through the city for a 6-year commitment?
I am asking a commitment that we are this is our target goal as a collective. We are going to plan and work together to achieve that 100-year anniversary, to continue to grow. I will still, as we have inside the past, always come back and still do annual reporting, still visit town, still be there.
But we ran into this when we first, started discussing Rocking on the Route. I'll double check with this, but we can't effectively sign a contract for promotion because we don't even know if we'll have enough for that the next year. Like this year, we don't think we're going to have what we had this past year for obvious reasons. But and I'll pass this on to the city manager and have them review it. But I don't. That's what we ran into before because it was proposed a 5-year contract deal commitment, and for promotional items like this, we can't enter into a contract because what if we don't have those funds the next year, or we're obligating funds that can be taken away from these other events? I think that would be something if we were able, and I'm not saying we're not able to enter into a contract. I can't speak for that. But I think I'm almost certain on something like that, that would have to go through an executive side and be committed, if I'm correct. And like I said, I'm not saying we can't.
Right.
I'm not authority.
I am not expecting, again, not knowing what the future brings and so forth and so on. Obviously, if things as far as the world changes, all of us are making dramatic adjustments. The goal by putting out the dates is that we are all on the same page, knowing that I'm not going to be coming in here every single year asking for more and more and more.
We
It's not
appreciate that.
right. It's not. Again, I mean, it's not the goal. I want the city to know that we are beyond committed to the city and to the people and to the growth of not only the festival, but the other festivals that happen, to the businesses that are here. Again, you said it to me last year, welcome home. And then that's what it feels like when I drive into town. It's comforting. So we're trying just to map out, hey, we're in this with all of you. We're committed. We want to show our commitment, but at the same time, the uneasiness of like saying, okay, we're going to just stroke a check. No, I mean, that's not realistic when none of us can, foresee the future.
Okay.
So hopefully that clarifies.
That's all I have.
All right. I think we're good. Well, thank you for coming all the way from Atlanta. Thanks for doing this.
Always good to see all of you and good to meet the new faces.
Thank you very much. If you could send in, if there's somebody named Benji.
Benji?
Who was peeking through the window. I don't
Okay.
know.
Very good.
Benji or TJ, whoever's
Very
got
good.
the cap, I'm assuming.
There's
manager
Benji.
guy. Yeah, maybe him.
That's it.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, sir. How are you?
Have a good one. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so get my place here. Go Music Showcase. Okay, they are requesting 9,000, which is what they were awarded last year. Hi,
Hello.
you're here to present for New Mexico Music Showcase, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can come up to the podium here.
We're ready.
All right. I don't think we need this, do we?
No, you're fine.
Okay, my name is Benji Torres. I'm currently the treasurer for the Tucumcari Columbus Club. And I'm sure you're familiar with our program that we put out in June. Because of this pandemic thing, we were not able to do that this year. I'm glad everybody is doing well. We are wanting to do our same program on June 4th and 5th of 2021. And we're asking just for the same amount we had asked for before. Our main thing that we were going to be doing this year is, I don't know if you've heard of Ernestine Romero. She was killed in Santa Fe. She was one of our New Mexico Music Showcase people that would come in. And she was killed at the Capitol. And we were going to have the family come in and be our grand marshals for that day on Saturday. And she had been coming to Mesalans Community College a lot and to our programs before when I was with the Arts and Humanities programs. And that's why we wanted to do that this year. We also do other events that we do not ask for monies, like we had our Al Hurricane Jr., and there's people that come in and stay in the lodgers. And we also do some other things at the club where the people come in and use our facilities also here in town. Does anybody have any questions about any of the venue?
Sad that y'all didn't get to do it this year.
Yes, it is. It's everyone has well, all of our events were canceled, the first ones that were coming up and everything, but
It's still kind of early, but we got started to discuss how to regain momentum that's lost, because you've been doing this for several years. To skip a year is a hard thing, just like when after
right,
Rockabilly on the Route ended and we launched a new event last year, you lose a year, it's you lose a little momentum. Have you guys
right.
been discussing yet? Like I said, I know it's early, but
Right, we have discussed, and I have reached out to the people that were supposed to come this year, and the family is still willing to come down next year so that we can continue with what we had in mind for them. So basically what we had scheduled for this year, we would be doing next year. All we're doing is staying in contact with the people that we were going to bring in. We also had a mariachi. We call him the Mariachi Elvis because he does mariachi music and he does Elvis music also. And we were going to have him go down to the restaurant, one of the restaurants or two of the restaurants, to perform there, like the Friday night, to bring in people. I had contacted Mr. Duplantis, but I never received any.
We tried to call you back. Your number changed.
Yeah, so I had never gotten any information from him, but I know that he does karaoke here and in Logan, and the people that I talked to were willing to go either to Logan or over here, and I think that would be a good thing because the man says that he starts off with mariachi and then changes into his Elvis, so it's a really a cool thing to do. So we're looking at different things for the culture to bring in people.
any questions? Okay. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come over and speak. And
Well, we appreciate what you guys do too also, and thank you very much for your time.
thank you. Would you send in if
Can you take a quick break,
sure.
like 3 minutes?
Yeah, I'll go outside and see if Stop Connie.
Con, I saw somebody.
We'll recess for 5 minutes. Is that enough? I can look 15. Let's see if TJ's out here.
It's really nice out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want me to call anybody that's here?
We're taking a break.
That's what everybody's asking for.
Oh, how's the business doing now?
Horrible. We, employees are quitting and we're just trying to stay afloat. At least,
Main Street has, this is what I put on Main Street, that's,
Because we.
fired up, and then the Stalking Tour is Main Street as well, so different event.
And then we have right now.
And then the disc golf is 950,
yeah,
People who live in motorhomes.
and this will be a total
Arizona, Rockies. So we're seeing a lot.
I'm gonna propose that the chamber go ahead and exactly.
Are all our reservations?
What was the name? Fired up is how much?
same thing.
Fired up,
March
9,000,
and April.
Yeah.
August tax.
and disc golf
We usually have.
is 9,000, or 900, and
$50. I have a feeling right now it's April 30th.
oh,
I get-
my numbers are so low.
That's our second, you know?
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
I think, the repercussions are gonna be long term.
Yeah. So this year, I mean, at least the banks are open up, so.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can hit June 1st. So June 1st is a target right now. So who knows?
I think.
There she is. Yeah. Okay, so we got her.
She's been sitting there for a while outside. DJ has.
She just pulled up.
Oh,
Make sure left and came back.
maybe she drove by or.
We just have her and Connie left. You guys are doing great.
There's a possibility that Daniel might not make it.
Oh, Daniel, I forgot about Daniel.
Yeah, because of his job position.
You'll be next, like in a couple minutes.
Yeah, because remember Daniel's a emergency manager, so he
Okay.
might not be able to make it.
But now we guys, you know,
We have his application.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs some explanation, but we'll make do.
I got an old bladder.
Which mine was timing out, but it's not.
I started
Probably be
making
about 30
coffee like
minutes.
at 4:30. This morning actually was a little bit later. My shoulder, I got this chronic pain up in my shoulders.
All right.
And for a while, I take some aspirin before I go to bed and it does fine. I'm sleeping good. And now it's like the aspirin's not
Aldo.
even working.
Dr. Patel will see you
I
now.
guess,
Hey.
Hey,
How you
Dr.
doing?
Patel,
yes,
ready to see me?
yes,
Okay.
start, go.
Okay, so this is, we found a place.
I had 4 minutes when you were calling for me on the call ago. I want you to know I was 4 minutes and I still had 4 minutes, so I was right on time.
We were ahead of schedule, so Brown was the only one out there, so we let him jump ahead.
Sounds
So
wonderful.
we're fine, we're actually doing really well, so, Rawhide Days, is requesting 12,000, they received that amount for this current year.
For 2020, yes, sir. Okay.
We're all yours.
Okay, well, I just want to thank y'all for letting me make this presentation, and we're all very sad about the pandemic that put us on postponement. And we use the word postponement because we really are hoping to find a date when everything gets back on an even keel that we can move forward and hit it 100%. So my report, or my report for this, was kind of sketchy. We have used $3,300 of our allotment for 2020 thus far. And so it would leave us a little less than 8,000 to continue, which should not be a problem. Okay.
33 includes the invoices that we're
Yes, sir.
looking at today.
Yes, sir. And that's what I was going to say is you have all the invoices for that 2135.90 submitted. So that was the total. So looking at 2021, which is what this meeting is for, we are looking at doing some new things like partnering with other states, which we did do contact this year, and they had rat cards and posters, and we would scratch each other's backs by putting their stuff on our rat cards, our posters, and vice versa. One of those main ones was it's in Tumbleweed, Arizona. I was trying to think what it's called, but anyway, it's huge. They have like 75,000 people show up for it. So we thought if we could piggyback and vice versa, then when they hit Route 66, they would be able to hit all these places.
And
And
that's where?
Tombstone, I said Tumbleweed, but I meant Tombstone, Arizona.
Okay.
And that's a real big event. So that, and then there's a couple of places in Texas that we were looking at partnering with them. And I realized they're off of I-40, but they still have a huge crowd. So these are the things that we need to really focus on to finish out this year, and especially for 2021, because we are asking for the same amount that we had this last year, because we felt like we, so far we had utilized it, and if things hadn't come to pass like they did, we would really have utilized everything that you had allotted for us in 2020. So I'm open to questions, suggestions from the board.
I think the biggest question is, because the timing of Rawhide Days being in May, so right now it's officially postponed.
Yes, sir.
2020. What happens if say this happens in the fall, September, October? What would that mean for next year's event? Would you still shoot to have something in May, or?
I think we would, yes, sir. The board has just discussed about the fall, and we haven't met. You know, we was talking about having a conference call, but we're kind of waiting for the pandemic to really slow down before, so we have actual names, numbers, and figures and whatnot to work with, because right now everything's hypothetical. But to answer your question, I feel like we would get back onto our May timeframe, because everything's, people mark their calendars. I think May would be awesome because of the snowbirds and people that travel, and that would bring in all people beginning their summer vacations from overseas for Route 66 travels. Whereas I don't know that the fall, that would be some snowbirds and everything, but I don't know how many actual travelers there are on Route 66 that time of year. And we could play it by ear if that's permissible with you guys and see how it does. You know, I think people coming out of their hiding places after all this is over with, we ought to see a lot of enthusiasm. I can't say if we had it in June that there'd be a lot of enthusiasm, because I think there would be such skeptic of getting out and, you know, still wondering if there's still some of the virus out there. But I think if fall would be far enough out that we'd have a real good turnout and people would be like, free, let me out, you know. But it remains to be seen as far as the fall and the May thing. I mean,
Because the way that would be working, because what you haven't used for 2020 will go back into a promotional.
For
side.
21.
So,
yes, sir.
yeah, so it's money that's going back into the pot.
Yes, sir.
And then, so what you're awarded for 2021 would be used for whatever you do. So if it's 2 events, that would have to be used for, you know, it would be used for both.
So let me make sure I understand you. So if we have it in the fall, that would be using the monies from now. And if we have it in May, a year from now, we would get new monies?
No, the new money, because you're, my understanding from speaking with Rochelle is that you would, so the money not used so far because you postponed,
Yes, sir.
there is no event in this fiscal year, the current fiscal year.
And the fiscal year ends June 30th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, there,
so
I follow
that-
you.
Yeah, so that money is forfeited, I guess is the word.
What it's gonna do is it's just gonna go into the cash.
Yeah, so it'll go in the cash. Now, everything's still kind of fluid at the moment. We're working with a very conservative budget at the moment. Too,
Yes, sir.
For the coming fiscal year. So we're just looking at, you know, the possibility would be that what money you're awarded would be to cover the fiscal year, July 1 through June 30th next year. So it would be, you would have to stretch that out if you did 2 events.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
some of this money has already been spent for the 2020 budget.
Yes.
So,
It's just lost. It's spent.
I mean, if they're using that for advertisement, I don't know, never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we have to do it by the rules, state laws and everything, but
Something that,
we can work with these people
Well,
somehow.
something,
We're trying.
I talked with the city manager and the, but, you know, Rochelle, and, I don't know what the official title is, Rochelle. And we can't make a commitment to it right now for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that, the largest tax and the commission get back together after September 1st.
We're talking
So
about
we
that.
got actual numbers,
Yes.
and we're
Yes, sir.
hoping, I'm hoping to be able to see that some of the cash that's not being used can kind of help these events that are, because when you skip a beat, it
Mhm.
takes a lot more to get that beat rolling. And there's no guarantees, and I have no authority to sit there and say this is, but we understand what's going on, and we've already started trying to figure out what we can do
Yes.
to help these. There's 2 events right now that are not gonna be able to do anything, and, you know we want these events back. So, you and I had discussed it as well, and I've already sat down. Like I said, there's no guarantees. Right now, we gotta get through this, like you're saying yourself, we gotta get through this pandemic and then get past this budgeted year and see where everything's at. And we wanna meet right after September 1st for the obvious reason of you got, Wheels on Fire and fire it up, and we want to make sure if they're still able to go, and if, you know, there's anything we can assist with them as well, so.
So if you allotted the amount we're asking to have awarded in 2021, it would be awarded July 1st, and then we would have to spend it by June 30th. So if we had it in October, then we would use part of the money, and then what we had left over, we would use, this is just all, I'm trying to follow your train of thought, then what we had left to pick it up again in May. So see, I totally feel where you're going now.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's something doom and gloom. We're just I'm trying to speak. We're just looking at, I'm trying to give you a realistic picture of what could be happening. I don't know who CEO is. I don't know what that is. Okay, so we're.
I understand.
Maybe Mark or Rochelle trying to interject here, because they have more knowledge. I should have said that, because I didn't want to.
No, that's fine, because I guess
go
what
down
I
the
would,
rabbit hole here, but.
what
I'm
I would
just- we're
say,
Trying to, I'm just trying to figure out if you're going to try to do two events within a fiscal year, then we'll just have to work the best we can with you, and there's a lot of uncertainties right
okay,
now.
see,
So I'm not
I wish I'd known
I'm
that
gonna prepare
before.
you for that possibility that.
And I understand,
stretch
because we
it out.
talked about having a conference call and we was like, well, we don't have anything to discuss, but we really would have had something to discuss if I'd realized that. I'm sorry.
Well, recommendation I would make, and I think you've already may have been, working on this a little bit, like you said the other day, but, have Rawhide be a part of,
Something.
or somehow
Mhm.
tied into that weekend, because we talked about last year, there was one weekend where all these events were happening, and, the paranormal event at the
Oh.
museum, and there was some.
That was the rodeo weekend.
Rodeo.
Yeah, the rodeo, which I know we talked about
Mhm.
that.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I know it may not be optimal, but it would be a possibility of still,
But it adds a twist to it, yes, as I,
it's another option.
it is, it really is. I guess what bothers, or not bothers me, but the question I have, and I know I'm over my time limit, but if we do that, because we've got to start advertising all over again, I mean, so, and we had New Mexico Magazine and AAA Magazine advertisements. And so the minute we made our decision on March 23rd, when nobody else had made their decision yet, I called those people and they had just gone to print. And so what you saw was in your packet.
Yep.
Those weren't cheap advertisements and we wanted to do more. If we do social media more so than that type of media, I don't know, it's a rock and a hard place, guys. I mean, $8,000, just say hypothetically, to try and put on 2 events?
Can I make a suggestion?
You sure may.
Wait till this pandemic lifts,
Hmm.
around May 1st,
Mhm.
and then call a meeting of your board
Yes.
and discuss it then. We can come up with all kinds of hypotheticals right now,
Yes, sir.
and
Well, I guess what I'd ask you folks to do is come up with two options. And that would be for a fall event and a spring event. Okay, does that make sense? In other words, I'm thinking to myself, fall events, the almost $8,000 we have left. And if we forego the fall and we get back on in spring, then the budget request we're making. Because I know you're not gonna let us do both.
With the advertisements, I would get in touch with those advertisers.
Mhm.
See if they will offer some kind of credit, even partial credit, because they have to be, everyone's trying to work with everyone right now.
That's
It's a
true.
good time to at least approach them. If you're a regular advertiser, if you bring value to them, and then they should be willing to work with you a little bit, because these are extenuating circumstances.
It's understandable. Yes, sir.
So I would definitely get in touch with them,
Okay.
especially since it was so close down to the wire like that.
It was,
And
yes.
if you do something in the fall, maybe combine advertising efforts if, if we can, like I said, don't have all the answers, but it's just a possibility of working with, Main Street and, combining some of the marketing efforts. So we are pushing, even if they're not at the same time, but still pushing the events. It's still Tucumcari.
All right.
And
That's why the Texas, Arizona thing was conducive, was because they fell after us. So see, they would be first, and then, it's just everything fell in line. So the people on Route 66 just kind of had a path, to go.
I think this year the key is going to be thinking creatively and more collaboration than what's typical.
Mhm.
Really working with, just trying to find ways to combine efforts, save money.
Yes,
and,
sir.
Make it through this year.
It's just really, there's just, as you all know, I mean, there's so much that goes into event planning. I mean, you would have to start over with, in a short amount of time, trying to throw together entertainers and vendors and those types of things. And I understand, we're all in it together. It's no,
just be patient, keep your head up, keep your gloves on, and
and see the doctor ever so often, huh? I've got him on speed dial.
So,
Fix you up.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
We always appreciate your support. We know you're between a rock and a hard place too, but at least we're all in it together.
We are. We're gonna do our best to work with everyone. The local events are important.
And we do not mind partnering. I mean, that's not a problem as long as our partnering's out there and everything else is up here. But we sure don't want to get on other people's toes if we have something at night and they have something at night.
Exactly.
That's, you know, something to consider. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Now have a good
Thank
day.
you, Jay.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, could you say Connie in, please? Connie, are you in touch with Daniel?
He had a meeting, he's gonna try to come. To the conference meeting, and I said, if you come to the.
Okay, well, he makes it, we're, how are we doing, 11:30?
Yeah.
Okay, so Cookie Carry Main Street, so we removed the Railroad Museum. So Connie is here to present for both Fired Up, which is requesting 10,000. They received 9,000 last year, for this current fiscal year. And then the Talking Tour is a new venture that's working with the guidance of Main Street.
Yes.
So,
Good morning.
good morning.
Looks like this format is working well. Everything seems to be flowing pretty smooth. Yeah.
It's Matt approved, so we're good.
Okay. Well, I am here first to present for Fired Up. As you guys know, this will be our 10th year for Fired Up. With the ever-changing situations at hand, we're monitoring our budget. We're monitoring exactly what we're going to do. Hopefully all of this will be rolled over and out of the way by September, but we are looking, watching all of that carefully. We have already booked our entertainment for this year. We've already paid deposits on all of that. They're excited to be here. We have a new band that we reached out to this year from El Paso. They're really excited. So we've begun the planning process. Excuse me. I'm quite sure you guys remember from my last presentation for last year's that last year was our highest attendance to date for Fired Up. I think that has a lot to do with the Wheels on Fire event that comes in. We saw a lot of people staying longer and coming down. So we anticipate partnering with them on promotion again this year, promoting each other to do those, to keep the people coming for both of the events, not just one. We have had increased interest this year in the car show for Fired Up. We've had a Corvette club from New Mexico reach out to us that are interested in bringing in 60 vintage Corvettes. We have reached out to Rods and Rides magazines. About 5 years ago, they came down and did a story on the car show. And so he's interested in coming back and doing that again. They are listed as one of the ones we'll be doing some advertising in. Right now, we've been focused on utilizing free advertising. We don't want to spend a lot of money up front, not knowing how the rest of this year is going to play out. So we've been utilizing Instagram and Facebook right now. Since doing that, we've had an increase in international traffic to our page. I think a lot of that has to do with our partnership with Fast TV Network. Last year, we saw a big jump to the traffic from that partnership, and then also just reaching out to the Route 66 crowd. We've really the Instagram page specifically has just gone crazy. I just recently created that, and it's people, it's all Route 66 people that love Tucumcari. And so it's been really interesting. I had a phone call from a gentleman who runs a museum in Indianapolis who reached out because of the Route 66 tie, not realizing that Main Street didn't sit on Route 66. So anyway, we're using those free venues right now in light of paying for advertising. But as you can see, I can answer any questions of stuff that's listed on there. One thing I will point out, under the other on our event budget, there's $1,000 for a fall themed event. Rather than doing another application for you guys to look through, we're anticipating doing some sort of event the same weekend that the Macelands Rodeo and Watson's Barbecue does their lot party. We're looking to do something that weekend to try to collaborate all of the advertising, get all that done. So that's what that extra $1,000 down there that bumped it from 9,000 to 10,000 for this year.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are you able to give an update on the walking tour, see what progress or what's happening?
The historic building walking tour?
Yes.
We've kind of stepped back for right now from that because we've been focusing on working with the talking tour, the radio tour that's going on. We are still researching the properties. One of our New Mexico Main Street revitalization specialists has actually been working with me to do an app, an interactive app and that kind of thing. So it's not off the table, but we've kind of postponed working heavily on that. Right now, our focus has really shifted to assisting all of our downtown businesses to staying open and getting their businesses shifted to having an online presence. And so that's taken up a lot of my time right now. Are there any other questions about the Fired Up?
You had mentioned Fast TV Network, and it's bringing quite a bit of traffic.
It has.
Yeah. Or
Last year we did some advertising with them, and then they also came down and filmed an episode here. Many of you guys sponsored that episode, but that was during October. But I think that partnership really opened some doors for us, and so everybody's having to learn.
Waving. I thought he was just saying hello.
Is it working now?
Technology is great, right?
I'm gonna go back to the office, see if it's working.
But that partnership with Fast TV Network really opened some doors for us, and we anticipate advertising with them again, and then hopefully working with them to get them down here for a few of our festivals this year again.
No, they're fully set up now in Albuquerque.
They are, yes, they did move their offices to Albuquerque.
Okay, so the October option here, that would be, so we're just mentioning this when TJ was in here. That's the weekend that we had all these separate
Yes,
events going and no cohesive
right.
message going out. Okay.
Right. Yeah, and the idea is just to try to advertise in one place, kind of like what we did with Very Merry Tucumcari, pulling all that together to advertise in one place instead of everybody doing their own thing and maybe not reaching as broad of a audience as we can.
Okay. So one thing I was going to look at too, because I know a lot of these applications mention advertising in the same magazines.
Yeah.
We'll discuss this more when we're actually working through the budget, but since you have a kind of a hand in a lot of things, you see the potential for combining some of these efforts in advertising. So we're, if we can incorporate an event into a larger ad, so we're spending on one ad,
right,
and really getting more bang for the buck instead of everyone doing their separate ads, for
right,
saying, or giving all this money to Root Magazine, for example.
Sure. And we've talked to, is it Brennan, I believe, at Root Magazine, and the more you advertise, the bigger of a discount you get. So I anticipate going to like New Mexico Magazine or New Mexico Route 66 Magazine, Root Magazine, the places that we're planning on advertising, and showing them the list of our full events for the full year and seeing if they'll work with us to give us a little bit of a discount since we'll be advertising so many different times. Yeah, so what you see on the budget is, of course, it could be a little higher than what it ends up being at the end if they'll work with us on those.
Well, I think that the committee, once it's rolling along, that we'll figure out a lot of this stuff. But yeah, just kind of combining some of these individual efforts into, especially with advertising. Print advertising is expensive.
It is. It's
we're all doing
very expensive.
We're all doing our separate efforts. It just, I don't know, it just, especially this year with our budget,
Yeah.
Very conservative, we're just,
Sure.
I'm trying to think of ways to stretch the money that we do
Of
have.
course. And that was one thing. This application was prepared before the whole virus thing really took off. So we are prepared to scale back. We've already been looking at ways we can do that with Fired Up, of course, but it's very understandable that nobody really knows what's going to happen right now.
All right. Question for fun
On that one.
on that one?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about Fired Up. It's grown year after year. So it's a good event. And then, like we were talking about Wheels on Fire, that might be the one thing that jumpstarts our, I don't know, economy or growth or.
Sure, I think we have some really great festivals with the Rockin' Route 66, with Wheels on Fire and Fired Up. And, the more we can all work together in partnership and promote. I was just visiting with Brian about, they're a promotion company. And so I was asking him about if he would be willing to maybe do some sort of promotional thing for our Main Street businesses or something. There's a lot of room for collaboration and focusing on Tucumcari as a whole, not all of us separately.
Okay.
I didn't mention, but what Matt mentioned about it, the attendance growing every year. We have seen in the last 3 years anywhere from a 6% increase to an 18% increase from year to year. So there's no doubt the attendance is growing, and I do think a lot of that is because of the Wheels on Fire and the efforts that Brandon's doing to bring his partnership with the 2 other towns. That's going to be a big deal for getting people here, I think.
Well, it was mentioned earlier, I guess, Todd, in regards to June being potentially a time when things are open back up.
Mhm.
I mean, we're hoping. But say it's, we do go through the summer and it's, I don't know what the worst case scenario is, but
Yeah.
a really bad case scenario is that we go through summer with limited
Right.
travel. And, if this happens in September, that kind of puts it where you're talking about potentially bronze event being, is that this is well, even if that does happen, I still think this is, because it is kind of.
This is our hometown
It's localized.
It is,
Even though we're wanting to grow it and grow
Right.
the reach and bring in people, but it is a local event. And it's a very, I think at that point, even if things pick back up in the summer, this is still gonna be a big, boost
Sure.
for the city and for a lot of people.
Yeah, everybody's
So
going to be ready to get out and go enjoy something fun.
Celebration, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to the
Talking tour.
Yes.
Yep. So the Talking Tour, Main Street is acting as the fiscal agent for the Talking Tour. So what we've done, I've worked with Tracy Johnson. This was her idea. She approached the city. The city granted her $5,000 from the executive side of lodger's tax to purchase all of the equipment. So there was no fee for all of that. All of that has been purchased. We're waiting on a couple of the units to come in. The radio station has donated the use of their equipment to professionally record all of the messages that will be recorded on there. We had hoped to really launch this in May, and I know now the Route 66 celebration that was going to end here in Tucumcari, that was going to kind of be the big launching point. We had some stuff planned for their banquet that night, and that's not going to happen. So
That's the motor car I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was canceled as of yesterday.
Right, I did see that. And so this isn't really an event necessarily, it's an ongoing thing. And so we haven't really decided how we're going to launch that again, or launch it now in light of everything that's going on. But this is one thing that can still happen regardless of, what's going on. We still have people traveling through. Yesterday, I was out by 5 Mile Park and there were tourists at the Paradise Hotel taking pictures. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. I really wanted to stop and talk to him, but I thought, well, okay, I probably better not do that. But so there are still people coming through. I guess they're on their way home or maybe back to Canada or wherever all these people are traveling from, but they're still here. And so this is something we can still offer them without having to interact. And so we've included some promotional stickers. We do get a discount if we order those with the RAT cards that we'll be doing. Tracy had planned on actually traveling the entire length of the route and promoting this. And of course, now with everything going on, that trip's going to be postponed a little bit, but we will be building a website. She's working on that already. Utilizing, a lot of stuff is being moved to the social media platform right now.
I really thought that combining advertising would make sense because it could be an existing ad for Tucumcari tourism, but just have a little circle or something in the corner,
Right.
check out our new talking
Sure.
board, just something that
Yeah.
simple, because I don't know if this warrants its own full ad.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, just a pod.
Sure.
I mean, just because we're again stretching our dollars right now.
I got a question on the talking tour.
Okay.
And I'm not asking this as a liaison, I'm asking this as if I was sitting out there, okay?
Okay.
And I've heard bits and pieces of it. On this talking tour, can businesses kind of sponsor a spot where, it goes through, like, even if it's, you'll pass Cornerstone's first edition, serves great pizza since 2017. You turn left on Adams down to the Historic Museum. Little things like that. Have y'all considered that?
We had not. I know she had considered, and the committee had talked about doing, having businesses offer discounts, like a little promotional thing at the
I
end.
would be very
If you,
interested in
okay.
if y'all
Okay.
had that open. Now, like I said, I'm not asking this as somebody sitting
Sure.
here. I'm lucky enough to be able to sit here to be able
Right.
to, but, anyway. that was all.
Yeah, I will take that back to the committee. We had looked at that, having some sort of tagline at the end of it that said, head over here for this discount and tell them you heard about it on the Tucumcari talking tour. So adding that as a promotional thing, I think that's easily doable. I'll hit you up about that later.
And what are their current plans to expand the locations, or is that?
Right now we have 15 units.
Okay.
We have had a couple of people call us and ask about expanding and adding, and so that is something we can look at.
Because one thing would be, and I sent them to you,
Oh.
or well to you, or Tracy,
Yeah.
whoever. But yes, so I don't know what the official answer is.
Right now, we
my thought
want
is-
to launch what we have and do that well before we add any more. But we, as this grows, and I do anticipate this growing, I think this is going to be an attraction for Tucumcari.
And it's a good thing that people are asking about, that
It
they
is.
want to be included, so that's already.
Yeah,
plus
that's a
as
good
we
sign.
launch it.
That is. So we know there's at least 2 that want to be in on this if and when we expand. Okay, 3. But yeah, so that is possible for us to expand that.
Awesome.
How much are you requesting for the talking tour?
5,000. That did include the certified folder display service, and that was added as we found out, there's not going to be a lot of travel going on. This service does that for you. This would include from the Texas line to just past Albuquerque. And we provide them the RAT cards, and they just make sure they're stocked all the time. You are on
Dr.
live.
Pepper, stoppers. I was expecting a Snickers from me.
Crackers right there. Okay. Any other questions for Connie? Any of this? All right.
Yeah, I asked for a lot, right?
Um,
We got a lot going on.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
I think Daniel, I just saw him walking by.
Yeah, he's up there.
I'll send him in.
Okay.
He's our last.
All right. Have a great day.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Connie.
Pretty good.
This is the last one.
I'd use it.
900.
not going anywhere without those.
I think it's 950.
950.
Yeah.
We have a total of 104,900
It's getting up there.
59 cents worth of.
What's that? This is,
A
so
brand new.
So it won't take us
Shootout
long to go down.
Shooters sighting, new event, or new to lodgers tax funding application is asking for $950.
Yep.
Hey, Daniel.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, so I apologize if that application was not, complete. I'm the emergency manager for Quay County, and so that job, and I also do GIS. That side of my job is completely overshadowed the GIS portion of my job, and projects like this are at the bottom of my list. But I wanted to make the time to come and talk to you guys and at least apply. If it doesn't work out, I'll try again next year. But I brought some additional documentation for what we're trying to do. So the PDGA has a magazine called Disc Golfer that goes out quarterly. And so I'd like to try to get an advertisement in there in the quarter that'll be before this event in October. And so that's why I've asked for $500 for advertising that magazine. I know it's a little bit pricey, but this magazine goes to every registered member of the Professional Disc Golf Association in the entire country. And so it's a huge, it's casting a huge net. And so I brought some documentation on that on their I brought you their media kit so you guys can review that in addition to the application. And then I also brought the quotes or just kind of, I went on Vistaprint and looked at how much the rack cards would be and the posters would be. And I brought you so you could see where my numbers came from. And so that's what we're really thinking of doing is doing those rack cards and putting them out in, hotels. I know the advertising needs to be done a certain distance away from Tucumcari. So, identifying hotels and, places like the Welcome Center and different places where we can just kind of attract attention to not just the event, but the park in general. Because I think if we can get people to just stop and enjoy the park, maybe they will stay a night in a hotel, and then also putting up posters and flyers in the disc golf shops that are in Albuquerque, Amarillo. I think even like the Clovis Portales area, there's talks about one being established there. And so if we can put, flyers there, it's targeting the specific group, of disc golfers, and we can hopefully attract more attention. Our events have had, moderate success. We were doing 2 a year, and we've never gotten more than half full, to be completely honest with you. And that's why I wanted to apply for this money, because I think if we could do a little better job of advertising the event, maybe we could fill an event and even expand to use more holes to increase our capacity. And another thing we've done to kind of try to increase attendance is we were doing 2 events a year, but I kind of feel like the disc golf market in New Mexico is a little saturated when it comes to tournaments, because it's just not a very large population here in New Mexico. And while we do draw participants from other states, the large portion of our participation is from the state of New Mexico. And so I thought focusing on 1 event a year could help us increase participation. So we didn't do our spring tournament this year, which ended up working out because the PDGA has canceled all tournaments until the end of April. And so I would have, been out any investment that we made on that event. So I feel lucky that, we made that decision earlier this year, and with all this happening, saved us some money. And so that's kind of what I have for you. Again, I want to apologize for, my late submission or not late, but I think I got it in right at the deadline. But
Well, different applications said different things.
yeah, I didn't want you to think that like I wasn't taking it seriously. I've just been consumed with, this COVID-19 thing. Yeah, but is it okay if I just leave this documentation with you, and you guys can review that? The media kit is really extensive on the size of the advertisements, and they even offer other products. So if this relationship does work out between us, I'd like to participate in some of their social media products that they have, and other things they offer, because I think using the PDGA as a platform for advertisement for our event will really legitimize our event, because it's the governing body for the country and for the world for disc golf. And so I think that having their backing, of course at a fee, will really increase participation in our tournament.
So For $500, what size ad is that by?
It's a third of a page, and it goes in, and it's one issue. I know that's expensive, but like I said, this goes out to every member of the PDGA in the country quarterly, and so it's a super wide net that we're casting, and you know, you're kind of paying for their name a little bit, you know, because they are the authority on disc golf, and so they advertise for you, and you know, people respect that, you know.
You have an ad in place ready, or you have a designer?
Yeah, so that was the other portion that I asked for, was a little bit of creative. You guys had it in the budget template as creative work, and so there's a guy out of Portales who does disc golf. He does logos for events, and he's done logos for major manufacturers, touring pros that have signature discs. And like, so he's very well respected in the disc golf community, not just here in New Mexico, but in the country. And so I asked him, you know, how much would it cost me to get you to help me out with like an event poster, a rack card, and all this? And he's like, well, we'd have to get into the details a little more, but my work usually ranges from $90 to $250. And I said, all right, well, let's go for $250 since I need multiple things from you, and then we'll just, you know, we'll work out the details later, and then I'll give you, of course, you know, provide, you know, invoice and everything, and detailed itemized receipt and everything. But that was kind of the avenue I wanted to take, because, you know, while I could hire, you know, a professional, I mean, he is a professional, but you know what I mean, like a traditional design company, he specializes in this type of artwork. And so I thought it'd be more productive to use somebody that has that type of experience.
That makes sense. It's good we somebody that close.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, he's gaining national attention, and through his artwork for some of the major manufacturers and their sponsored players, and so I think that, you know, he could do a really great job for us, and you know, we're keeping the money in New Mexico.
Only other question I had, I can't believe this. You said this would be number 4, so you've had 2 a year, so this would be.
Well, this would be the 4th shootout at 6-shooter sighting. So this would be our, so we did 2 in 17, 2 in 18, 2 in 19. Okay. And then, so this would be, 6. Yeah. Okay. So this would be our 7th event since we canceled the spring one.
How has attendance or the participants, how's it tracked from like?
Yes, sir.
Growth so far?
All that data is available on the PDGA website, but I can give you a little synopsis. It started off where we had 45 participants, which was half of our capacity, the very first event. And I think there was a lot of excitement about this new disc golf course in New Mexico, and this desert landscape and the mesas and just everything that we have to offer here. But I don't know that our course was ready yet. It takes some time to create a disc golf course. You know, the city was great. And this board was gracious enough to help us get the baskets and the concrete in place. But carving out the fairways has taken years. And so that first event, it was a little rough. I'm not going to lie. And so participation went down for our second event. I also think, like I said, we kind of got ahead of ourselves in multiple ways, trying to do 2 events, because there's only one course in New Mexico that does multiple events a year. So, I mean, we were the second to try to do multiple events. And I think we're very ambitious, but I think we got ahead of ourselves a little bit. So attendance dropped the second and then started picking back up ever since then. And so I attribute that drop from the first to the second event to the time of the year, because our second event was in May. And the first one was in October. First ever inaugural for here was in October. The second one was in May, and we just don't fit in that time time of the year. It's hot here, and it's dry here, and people were sweating and, you know, getting sick on not getting sick, but, you know, just heat exhaustion was a serious concern for us, and so that was another driving factor into us moving away from doing a tournament that time of year, because in October, a lot of our northern courses, they're starting to get snow. They can't play disc golf in Colorado and places like that anymore. So they're looking to come down to the desert and play, you know, where the weather's a little bit better. And so I think that's why we stuck with that October event. And so I think that had, you know, that timing also had something to do with that drop. But like I said, you can look at the PDGA website. And so that first event was our best event. The second event, we had a major drop, but then it's increased back up to where we were on that first event. And so that, you know, and I feel like we can keep moving in that direction. And if we could, you know, if we could partner with you guys and get some better advertising going, and also, you know, limiting the numbers that we're having here a year, I think is really gonna. I think I see that trajectory continuing.
I just have a comment. I mean, these people have been volunteering their time to get all this done. It's the upcoming event. Once we start talking about a budget, I think that's something that we really need to consider as, hey, a new event. We really need to consider supporting these people. And we spend money on that golf course, might as well try to get people out there to use it.
So is everything set now? You have the baskets are all in place and everything?
Yep, baskets, concretes, and if you go out there and just drive around 5 Mile Park, you'll notice the grassy fairways are starting to come into play, because once we mowed down a lot of that brush and a lot of that rough stuff, it gave the grass an opportunity to grow. And so it's just, I mean, it's astonishing. If you go out there and just drive the roads, you'll note the fairways stick out like a sore thumb, because they're just nice grass patch runways, you know, I mean, fairways. And so it's really starting to come together, and we've gotten great comments that, you know, at every event, just like, wow, we can't believe how far you guys have come from that first event. And, you know, it's been an uphill battle, but I'm really proud of where we're at right now. I think we are one of the best courses in New Mexico, just underneath the mountain courses, because they have that mountain beauty that we have to compete with. But right underneath them, I think we are one of the best courses in the state of New Mexico.
Is there a fee and prize money or something?
Yes, sir. Yep. So there's an entrance fee and there's professional and there's amateur divisions. The professional division does pay out in cash. We write checks and through our nonprofit bank account, and so they are paid out in cash. And then the amateur division is paid out in merchandise. And so we have a disc golf store out of Albuquerque that comes down and does on-site payout for us for the amateur division. So it's a great way to get equipment in amateur hands and increase the local participation in the sport as well.
So it sounds to me that because of weather and climate conditions, in time, 2 events a year is doable.
It is. It is doable. I think what we were doing is we started out that second event being like in June, then we moved it to May, then we moved it to April, and this year we're going to move it to March just to get away from the heat. And so I think we could fit in there in an early April, late March kind of time frame. But I think we just need to build our reputation. And we need to get more people out here to experience the course, because I think, not to knock any of the forms of advertisement that I've presented to you guys, but I think the best form of advertisement is just word of mouth. When somebody enjoys something so much, they go back home and tell their friends, tell their local disc golf club that they need to go check that out. And so I think there's definitely the potential to go to that. I just want to see a disc golf tournament fill. I know our course has that potential and our crew has that potential. And so once we get to that point where we're filling a couple tournaments, I definitely would love to expand. And the PDGA coordinator for the state of New Mexico would love to see us go back to it as well. They were disappointed, but he understood where I was coming from, so yeah.
All right. Anyone else?
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you letting me present to you. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe.
You did. Thank you.
Is that the last one? Yep. How do you get my charger?
The charger.
Yeah, I got people contacting me, my phone's about it.
I think like what Matt said, the first time event.
Yeah, first time event. I think
Okay, so we need, which whiteboard? Yeah, nice. Because I didn't do spring, just scrap paper.
I come up with $104,959 that we've been asked for today.
Wait, I'm sorry. Before we do that,
Well, no,
let's go ahead and
199?
Well,
No, 99. Maybe I missed somebody.
Well, I don't know.
I didn't add
I've
everybody.
added,
Especially if we've got 61 to work with.
oh, it's gonna be easy. I already got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we have,
I think it's over 100, it's over 100.
You got about 104?
Yeah, I didn't do it, I just did it quick, but it's over 100. So
Okay.
you're probably right.
So again, the thing to stress is that this is a very conservative budget. We are hopeful that there will be more money at a future time. And that we will reconvene in September and make adjustments where we can. So and that will be made clear to the applicants when this is finalized. But for now, it's still hard decisions to make. But I'm trying to think different ways to go at this. I mean, we want to make sure that we're showing support for the events still coming from July forward. So I want to, think about September, October, because we have time to pad the funding for the events further out. Then we go all the way to late June, which is 166. So I think there will be adjustments. I'm still optimistic that things will get back, to semi-normal by summer. I hope.
Mr. Chairman, well, tell me when you're ready for the discussion. I'll wait. I think, first of all, this will help us out a lot if we put chamber in the executive funds. Sunny 505 cost the executive side $50,000. And if we allow the chamber to get the whole $33,000, the executive side still saving $16,505 from just that. The chamber is asking to take over part of Sunny 505's responsibilities, and that was in her application. So if we can start by before we start taking all these other events, start cutting from them, and we can take that 33,000 out, ask the commission to put that in executive. I know people say this is promotional only, but we have precedent that in the back before we have made decisions on this board from the executive side.
This is a refresher. I wasn't sitting here last year. I was sitting out there. But didn't something come up about the duties of the chamber that and I'm not trying to say let's not give them. I'm actually I'm looking at this. Actually, this would be kind of cheaper than going with Sunny 505 in a sense. My only thing with her proposal, if she's proposing something for that committee right now, first off, I believe that would come out of the executive side. Second, we were told that there wouldn't be a startup cost. For her to present that with this, and I'm not saying she don't need to come with something right now. I'm just saying for her to present that with her thing, I can't say we should honestly consider that, and we should consider it as two separate entities. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because chamber, we didn't discuss the committee being part of the chamber. We discussed Carmen being part of the committee.
Yes.
I think that needs to be first looked at. I would like to have y'all recommend, and this is, I'm not even talking as a devil's advocate. I think at least half of what we were paying Sunny 505, I think that's a good idea. That if and I'm not speaking for the commission, I'm speaking for as commissioner of the plans. Utilizing those funds because she does work. Well, she doesn't. Her promotions do work, in my opinion. again, it's my opinion, Ron. That she does function at, her promotions function at a city level. And, I think that's legit to ask the commission for. I'm not saying it'll go through, but I say that's legit.
I mean, that's our
recommendation.
starting point, and then after we get that, that's down to 71,000 right there, 71,490. Sorry, 71,405 point. And if they say, well, we can't make decisions on promotional, we've been doing it since.
You mean executive?
Yeah, executive. We've been doing it. We made when Sunny 505 came into a year ago, 2 years ago, we made that decision to go on with the RFP. This board did.
Yeah.
So we made
It's not the
decisions
commission, but yes.
on the executive side where we can ask the commission, say, hey, look, I mean, that saying, if you don't ask, you're not going to receive.
I believe what Carmen is presenting here is, again, like a stopgap. This is the term. She's trying to provide the bridge from where we left off with Sunny 505 to where this committee goes, which is going to be a few months, especially with all the problems of getting Main Street here in town. It was slated to she called in a few weeks ago. This should have already been, and it's moving ahead, but not at the speed it could be if this wasn't all happening.
Well, what if, worst case scenario, because no matter what if the commission turns down the executive part about the 25 grand? We have to have a backup. So a good thing to think about, and from what, when we've discussed and heard the presentations and everything else, well, if y'all are willing to approve $10,000 to continue with the advertisement, because that's roughly the difference from what she spent last year and what she's asking for this year, and say the 10,000 so the committee can move forward with their marketing and stuff like that, and then 25 or 26,000 for the chamber or something. The 10,000 in the way of 505, in my opinion, could come from the executive session a lot easier as a separate entity, because that's actually what we were looking at, as from my impression when the committee recommendation came up, or the presentation, is we paid 7505 out of the executive side. So if she can come in and say, well, for a trademark logo or branding, whatever, whatever it might be, that's not my area. The committee would like to recommend or request $10,000 from the executive side to move forward with our branding ideas. By the commission, we did want some quick movement as quick as possible, but we want to see progress, and that's progress. And progress isn't going to happen without a dollar.
Right.
So that's an avenue you can take.
And even before Sunny 505 came in, the chamber, Carmen, and even prior to Carmen, they've been doing advertising in the Route 66 magazines. They've been doing stuff for the whole city that maybe should have, and not really events, maybe should have always came from the executive side. I mean, that's my thought. Whether we do the whole 33,000 or not, but the chamber, in my opinion, should come from the executive side. In my opinion, I'm one of 5 members.
As far as the amount, that's why I was asking her the questions I was, because I want to try to avoid anything that doesn't seem necessary. Like, I don't know if we should really print new mural maps, if it needs to redesign and everything right now. We don't know what tourism is going to look like this year. So if we print up new mural maps, then we print new Visitor Guides that match the mural maps, and then we're going to redo them all anyway in a few months. I'm trying to figure out ways to not waste money. It feels like like I said, I still have a box, almost a full box of Visitor Guides that she printed last summer, sitting in my office that I'll never use. I'll give those to somebody else. I think it feels like we have enough to get through this season, at least going into summer. Then it could be revisited if we start to truly run out. Because I saw the design. It was included with her paperwork. I didn't print it out because I didn't want to waste the ink. But just, I don't know how necessary it is. We're at a point right now where we don't know what summer is going to look like. If we print all these materials and then don't use them and then we redo them anyway, we wasted that money on boxes of brochures and maps that we don't need. If she has some in place, are you just joining us or you?
I just have a question
Okay.
about chamber. Did she turn in her budget from last fiscal year?
She finally, yeah, she gave me a copy. I haven't had time to look at it. Okay.
She had it.
But she-
Oh, sorry. I'll check her phone right here.
Yeah, because there's some other, did you want to talk about some of the stuff we talked about or you want me to?
I can. So, I talked to Larry yesterday about, the chamber. And my concern is that this time last year when we had this meeting, she wasn't 75% spent on her budget. And now again, she's at $9,800, which is not even half of her budget. So that's one of my concerns, which I know that she usually says she has a lot of things coming up at the end, which is why I wanted to see this budget. The other thing that's a concern of mine is that we just pay the chamber a monthly amount every month, but she never submits any invoices like all the other events do. And so my recommendation was maybe she should submit invoices and we pay them that way instead of just a monthly amount, because right now she would be sitting on, I believe it was $14,000 right now that she hasn't used. So
Why hasn't she submitted, do you know?
it's the way it's always been. So I don't think it should continue that way.
No?
I think it needs to be changed, but that's something that the Lodgers Tax Board needs to.
And this is where I was going, but
Suggest.
yeah, which I'm glad, I'd rather you present this.
So I wasn't gonna come in here, I was gonna let you guys do it, but, I really
I'm glad
wanted
you're
to
here.
see this and, to just throw those in since you guys were talking about her budget right now.
How does that affect, with the chamber? And this was a question that was brought up, about using the executive side. Like for the committee, that committee, if they were to come request funds for marketing to the lodgers tax, what part would we be looking at that from?
I brought up the question, I don't mean to put in, I brought up the question because we were spending $50,000 on Sunny 505. A lot of her, a lot of her application was like Mr. Smith said, was kind of like that stopgap or whatever the word you used.
Yeah.
To fulfill some of this advertisement. Well, Sunny 505 came out of executive fund. My opinion, I'm one of only 5 people. My opinion that chamber should come from executive funds. Y'all have the money anyways, because y'all are asking for 50,000 for Sunny 505. You're saving, even if we allow her to get the 33,000, the whole amount, you're still saving $16,000 from the executive fund. And it will still give us, and if we take that away, it'll still give us $71,405 to work with for all these events.
Right.
I mean, I know we have to go down to 61,000 or 60,000 or whatever, but my opinion, chamber, some of the advertisement that she's been doing a great job, has been doing same or similar, I don't want to use the word same, but similar advertisement as Sunny 505 has. That's come out of executive funds. I know the main concern of the city is lodgers tax don't have the power of executive funds, but this commission has been giving us, well, they wanted our opinion on a lot of stuff that's going on in the executive side. And if we don't ask for it, of course, we're not going to receive it. A couple of years ago, when promotional gave, quote me if I'm wrong, $75,000 to the convention center, I think it was quoted in a city commission meeting, if the lodgers tax needs more money for events, we can always ask for more from the executive side.
Right.
So you as the financial chairperson, could we not ask the commission for the 33,000 or what, the chamber's funding?
Oh, I think you guys could ask them for whatever. That's up to the commission what they want to do with that money. I'm not gonna say,
Right.
Part of that too is, okay, so the money that was awarded for the current fiscal year, so she still has, this is April, so I don't know when she gets the payments, but she has April, May, June left to receive payments. So that's money already allotted to her that's not been spent. So she could conceivably carry that over into the next fiscal year.
which is what we talked about. So the question would be, do you want her to revert the money she hasn't spent by the end of June? Or do you want her to carry it and deduct it from the amount she's requesting for this next year?
Well, see, that's stuff that we don't know what state law is. I mean, we're not that intelligent as a board, but.
Well, if she doesn't spend it, it does what?
Yeah.
It goes into cash.
No,
What
hers
are you-
is, she's getting
Oh,
paid
hers is-
already. So technically, she's already received her April payment. And I say I should say the chamber's already received their April
Yeah.
payment.
Yeah,
So they
it's-
have May and June. So can go back and look at this real quick just to see when she ended up spending the rest of her money. Some in June, but not very much. But just to see how much she carried, or if she, I'm not saying she carried it over, but just to see where she was at. Because we had this conversation in April and she wasn't at 75%. So to see what she spent in April, May, and June of last year, just to see.
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay,
Something.
I'll be back.
I guess, yeah, when I'm trying to stress, first I hate that we keep saying her, she, because it's the
Yeah.
chamber, not just Carmen.
And it's not her fault because it's been
Well,
happening a long time ago.
Well, she's doing a great job with what she's doing, but what I've been trying to figure out since I've been on this board is trying to figure out the role of the chamber in this process anyway, because I don't know if this is typical that Chamber of Commerce does tourism advertising. I don't think that's.
I don't think they're supposed to.
That's
That's what was brought up last year. Chamber of Commerce is to promote the commerce,
Yeah.
not the tourism.
So-
That's what, I was trying to remember what was the issue that was brought up.
Yeah, so if you look up definition of Chamber of Commerce, it's nothing to do with tourism advertising, but they've stepped in because there hasn't been anyone else doing it. And 7505 came in, they, instead of taking it all, they still left that part for the chamber. And that's why it was all disjointed for the last 2 years. So that's where the committee and the end result of that will be a cohesive, unified marketing advertising plan effort. So in the meantime, though, we have this, and when I was talking to Rochelle yesterday, I was just thinking of the money already not spent, that she's already been, that the chamber has been awarded. And whether that can carry over and be the buffer until this first initial, whatever we're calling it, this tourism task force has completed the branding and style guide process, which will then lead to a new marketing advertising plan. It seems like she would have enough to do that, to keep, I wouldn't, so like this year, I don't know if I would pursue new advertising avenues. I don't think I would reprint guides and maps right now. I just don't, I think there's too much uncertainty. I hate the idea of what she was just talking about. When she took over, there were boxes of unused materials sitting in the storage room. That's just money wasted. It's never used. And so if I have a box of Vista guides sitting in my office, there's probably a good chance other people have the same. And we regroup all the materials we have, redistribute it as needed. We make do with what we have for this year, which is gonna be a weird year anyway. She's got money to continue on to the summer. And then we hold off executive. If it's needed, then she can present that need. But I think we use the money already allotted to her for this fiscal year, let her carry it over and continue on being that stopgap until the committee, the tourism committee is in place and moving ahead. That's kind of where I'm at with this. So we want to move on till the show gets back.
I have a question.
Okay.
So for example, if we send the 33 to the commission and the commission rejects it, is there an opportunity to renegotiate this number?
Well, any number that goes in front of the commission is not a set number, it's a recommendation. And as we saw last year, there's a lot of changes done once it got up there. Some of the changes we found out while sitting up there. You know, a good example, we used the Railroad Museum last year. Y'all denied them a request, but then the request came up and got voted on. It got changed. You can put anything you want on a request. The whole thing is, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, nobody was here to present it, so the commission just goes off of, it's always good if Larry or one of y'all guys stood up there and said, this is what we think, why she should get the 33,000, we vote, then we go to the next one. This is why we think this golf course, they're new, they're starting up, they're moving on, and they've been doing this by themselves for 4 years now, and they would like to advance this is why we think they should get this amount. You know, it benefits us on that. You know, I can't say yay or nay whether it would be, the chances are if the whole amount wouldn't get denied. It could be a lower amount that's given. Because, of course, you know, Rochelle would have the budget out, and you know, if we're doing our jobs, we'll ask, okay, well, how does this look in here? Can we do this? Can we work at this? We want to work any way we can to meet y'all recommendations. At least the majority of us would. So, you know, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll need a good argument.
You know what?
We'll need a good argument why we want the
Well,
executive side. to take
Can't
on
it be
the
two entities though? Chamber and then promotions and advertising?
Well,
Yeah, anything can come up. And this is why I was saying and it's roughly 10 grand that she's actually wanting from the difference from what she is spending this year and requested to the extra stuff. Now I haven't looked to see because it's all blended in together. So I'm roughly guessing she needs $10,000 to move forward with the branding for for Tucumcari, not for the chamber.
Yeah.
To me, she actually should have two different requests.
Yeah.
And myself personally, I think at least that 10,000 should be recommended to be taken out of the executive side, if not more. I'm just saying, but at least that 10,000 because of that committee, like Matt was saying, that the stuff for 505 came out of the executive fund.
Yeah.
So I feel, if not all of it, I feel if she's going to request 10 grand to get this committee moving, that should come out of the executive side. That should be brought up in front of the commission to come out of the executive side.
And
At least.
worst case scenario, if we give her the whole 33,000, without doing 7505, the executive saving is 16,000 over.
The only thing I've got to say about that, you know, going into that, the chamber, you know, even though they are doing some promoting of tourism, it's like we've discussed, their promotion is of commerce. And that 10 grand is one thing. We got to be real careful about taking something that's going to be promoted and keep utilizing, because that committee is going to need more money.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
That's
you know,
what I'm saying.
we got to recognize that committee is going to need more money, and we don't want to go, even though we're doing good with the executive side, we don't want to go to that well too many times to cover a promotional item.
Right. Well, out of all these events, all the ones we got, I think of the only one should be the chamber, should go to the executive side.
Well, again, though, we're at a pause with this right now, and you know that's why I'm saying that I don't see where this chamber has to be decided immediately, because she has funds available. She just said that she was going to use some of what's still in this current fiscal year's budget to produce the new mural maps. That's why it's not on this itemized list for next year, because she's using part of that money to create new mural maps. What I'm saying is that, do we need new mural maps this year?
No.
It's great that they're ready to go, but is it better to wait and have that design the information that she's put together, incorporated into the new design once that's figured out, and then we have brand new, because the idea going forward, I believe, is still to incorporate all this into one single piece, the visitor guide, the mural map, everything into one piece that we can hand a tourist instead of shoving a stack of stuff at them. That everything it's a comprehensive piece of marketing material that's more user friendly. So I don't want to waste money on printing things we don't need. They're going to end up sitting in a box and never used. If she has money available, I don't see why we have to right now decide where she's going to get more money.
Right.
I think that comes later and see where the committee goes. It may not take 5 to 7 months or whatever was thought. Different things can happen, and this year can go different ways. There's too many uncertainties right now to have to say we have to give the chamber $33,000.
Oh, I agree. I'll just use that 33 as an example to move over. So that's just my spill. If you want me to shut up now, I'll shut up.
I'll say we wait for Rochelle to come back and then we see what she has, but we got about an hour before we absolutely have to get out of this room. So let's move on with the others. We have, Wheels on Fire requested $3,700. They received $2,000 last year. The big difference with his is he's asking $1,700 for to help with swag, the rider bag, shirts. That's usually sponsor supported, but as he's mentioning, being a sponsor, I can confirm is that it's going to be much harder to sponsor events this year. Very hard on to be. I may not be able to do what I did the last 2 years. So that is an increase, but that's still a low amount.
As a discussion on Wheels on Fire, I think we should give them $3,000.
Where are we now? What do you say if we
cut out the chamber? We're at $71,405.59.
So almost 71.5. So really 10,000. So we need to cut 10,000. Okay. Okay. So let's say Wheels on Fire is 3 for now. Also say that we take into consideration if it's a low ask,
we can get more.
Then it's easier to give the full amount if it's a lower ask, because for what Wheels on Fire provides for the city, he's really done a lot of this on his own.
Right. I think they deserve the more than the 2,000, of course.
Yeah.
Suggested
3,000. This is one I we can revisit, but this is one I would be inclined to give them the full, because it's a low amount and it brings a lot of people to the city, seeing it firsthand. He does a lot with a little, which you can't always say that, but
right.
He really makes
And he does
dollar stretch.
He has turned money back. I don't think he spent it all last year or the year before. One year he stood up here and he was able to give us some back because the turnout was better than what he anticipated.
Yeah. So if he gets sponsorships do come through and things happen that he won't need that full amount, he would.
Yeah, he doesn't get crazy about trying to make sure he spends it all.
He's very responsible for what he's provided. So with that one, I would want to give him a full 37, but we'll keep it at 3 for now until we get through this. Okay. Next up, Rapper Reunion. So they have a very specific amount.
72.65. Yeah, 7,245.
What's the amount since? So we gave them 4,000 last year, and that was bumped up in the commission meeting as well. So I think we had it lower. Let's see.
I think last year they requested either 7 or 7,500 last year.
Yeah, I believe.
They got 4,000.
Yes. And they
operated with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used 100%.
We spent, we used it all. And I'm speaking, I shouldn't, but they did utilize all of it. And of course they found other ways to make up for that other money. And they're actually working on that again this year. Yeah, really have taken a business aspect look at it, and they're trying.
Okay.
The only thing they're concerned about this year, and that's why they haven't postponed or anything, is how's what's happening now going to affect? Personally, I think it's going to be cleared. This is me. I think personally it's going to be cleared up, and right now is the time to buy a plane ticket. So it could be really good.
Buy oil.
Yeah.
They had cross-country tickets for $60.
Yeah. First, I haven't been too shy about this one in the past. I don't know how many cities support high school reunions. I know with mine back home, we just, everyone paid into it and showed up, and that was it. So this was really a surprise to me when I first joined Lodgers Tax Board. It's not strictly tourism, but I understand that people do come in and book rooms. I don't know, this feels more like a goodwill gesture than anything else. It just feels like something we do because it supports the community. I don't necessarily, I would like to see it support itself, be fully self-reliant at some point.
Well, at one point, several years back, they were running self-sufficient. The last individual that was running it, when she decided to resign, and she'd been doing it for almost 20 years, if I'm correct, she put a letter in the publication saying the Rattler reunion was ending as we know it. And so what happened was the amount of people we were getting the next year, we were barely over 100 people. So that's why they started requesting help from Lodgers Tax to try to get that promotion back up. Because when that happened, they lost advertisers. And one of the problems when they lost advertisers was the bulk of the hotels are over here on the west side of town, and the parade never went down the west side. Well, that's something we fixed, and now they go all the way down, they come all the way back. We found that there was a overabundance of publications being sent out to people that have been passed away for years. Well, that cost, we were selling the publication for $5, and it was costing us $20. So that in itself, last year we had almost 400 people registered. Over 360 some, I believe, showed. We only printed up 400 publications, and so we had some for those that showed up and wanted to buy it. But our publication cost, Michelle's right, it dropped from 12 to 14 grand, and it was around 7 to 8 last year. And this year they're charging now for the Golden Rattler, which that was a free one that we sent out. And
What's the difference?
well, the Golden Rattlers, it's almost like
people.
it's almost like after a certain year, it's kind of keeping track of who's still kicking and who's deceased. You know, that's the best I can put it. I'll be finding out in a couple of years. But you know, that was one we had sent out, and that was one also that was costing the most because trying to keep up with deceased people from all around the United States and the world is hard to do. And so we started this year. We were like, okay, we sent it out, and you know, it's $5. And we started it last year. We didn't tell everybody. We groomed them. Last year they got their free publication. We put in there. Next year will be cost at a cost of $5 to help. You know, and so that was something that the Alumni Association put on their own barbecue, which raised $4,500 just that one night. You know, that was the profit from doing it ourselves. So.
So we can.
They're making efforts to get back to being self-sufficient.
There's a Facebook page or something.
We got a Facebook page, we got a website. We're actually putting together a store so they can buy Rattler Reunion memorabilia, and that's also something we did last year as we started selling it. I know I sound like I don't vote for anything that, you know, if y'all give a recommendation. I'm very good about abstaining from that, but
it's good to know.
You know, they have taken on a business mentality on it in order to keep this thing going, because reality, the classes are getting smaller. And this year we actually, whereas normally the 30-year class that hosts puts together a lot of the stuff, and we give them a small budget, and then anything over that budget they make up. This year the class wasn't actually as gung ho right away and they were letting things slide. So the association has now taken a lot of that responsibility in finding the band, the guest speakers and all that. So, but anyway, I just want to put that out there. You know, they are making extreme, you know, like I said, if you look at what they're asking for in the publications and stuff, it was twice that 2 years ago.
For conversation, right? I mean, of course, you're the chairman, but we can put 6,000 down, or we can go 4,000. Just the conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest 4 for now, keep it held over from last year.
Okay.
Again, let's remember that if additional money is available later. Yes, so, you know, we're trying to get through this first hoop. So this isn't final saying this is all they'll ever get. This is saying, but I'd still like, 4,000 was sufficient last year. Again, and I'm not, you know, it's hard to do this because it's not that I
Want to help
hate
everybody.
the high school. I've never seen this before, so it didn't make sense to me that this was actually a thing. Like I said, I've been to all my reunions. Everyone pays $100, $150, we show up, we have a good time, and that's it. There's no, you know, of course.
But it's a good starting.
Yeah.
And then if things work out, we can always do more.
But I would like to see it, you know, eventually go away.
Sustain itself.
Yeah, sustain itself would be the goal. So I don't want to keep increasing it. Okay. Rochelle?
Okay. So, I went back and I pulled her, I need to stop saying her. I pulled the chamber's spending the last time when we had this meeting last year. And so as of April 17th, she was 50% spent as of April. This time she's at March and she's at 90, what they say it was 9,600 out of a $27,000 budget.
There's a lot.
So, she did end up spending all her money and I went back and so I kind of just projected. What I did is I went in and added everything that she spent after the April meeting and put that into what it would be for this year. That would take her to almost about 20,000. So she would be short 7,000. Again, that's just projecting, but she's a whole lot less spent at this point in time than she was last year.
Okay.
So.
Good to know. That's a factor, for sure. What we're discussing after you left is there enough to kind of bridge the gap till this tourism committee is going full force, especially with questionable the tourism dollars this year and presence. Okay, thank you for doing that.
All right, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's keep moving through this. Again, though, I'm gonna go back to Wheels on Fire and say we'd be the 37, because if we're getting rather 4,000, it seems crazy we're not providing.
You know, the Wheels on Fire for 37, when you, on my projections, we'll still be under the 58,000, so that's fine.
I'm pushing for that. Like I said, such a small ask for what he delivers. Okay, New Mexico Music Showcase requested 9,000. That's what they received last year. Agree, that's also a very important event. The fact that it's locally produced and continues to grow. Of course, they're going to have their challenges, skipped years, just like Raw Days potentially. That's what's left to make the cuts. Like I said, well, of course, their event will be in June of next year. So there's plenty of time to add to their amount later. So this is one that perhaps I want not to send the wrong message to them, but I would want them to understand that this is just for the moment, and that we would revisit it in September, still well ahead of the event. And because it'll be the same for this and Rocket Route 66, I think, is where we took the cuts because they're far out in advance.
Can I put just a seed out there? Between, the money spent and the money so far not spent between Rawhide and, New Mexico Musical Association, there's $14,800. Now,
Yes.
we're kind of hanging on to that, but basically, that's almost some money that we can turn over in the next year.
Yes.
My advice is, and Rawhide don't need to be putting on an event in October, they need to start preparing for their event in May.
I agree. I was
You
gonna
know,
bring that up when we got to
I
it,
just
but
didn't wanna
yeah.
carry on the conversation for another 30 minutes.
Are we on Facebook?
Yes, I think I have no idea I don't know what's going on.
But, you know, I just want to say, to remember that with the, because those two events not taking place, there is 14,800. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
available,
I mean-
but it's there.
Well, when I talked to Rochelle yesterday, it is available cash. We don't want to make that really, we don't want to publicize that as much right now because it's
Yeah.
money in the pot, but it's,
That's,
yeah, it's there and it will be potentially available to us if we need it. Right now, I'm just trying to, I want to stick to the 61.5, knowing that this will not be the end, the final word. This is to get us to September, and for the events that are later, May and June of next year, we'll have plenty of time to come back to and address. But I want to make sure that we're taking care of the events, August, because we don't have anything in July, so August, September, potentially October with what Connie was talking about, and the disc golf tournament. I want to take care of those and make sure we're fully supporting those for the immediate, and then we come back to the others.
I mean, if we cut down the chamber from the 61,000, we're down to 71,000. In my jotting down, if we allow the showcase to get 8,000, Rawhide 9,000, Fired Up 8,000. They did 9,000 last year. They had money left over. That tour 4,000. Disc golf the whole 950. We're still under 60,000. We're at 58,000.
Okay, well, those a lot of numbers. Okay, well,
Could you repeat those?
Well, I just said it kind of fast because he wanted it, and he's a chairman, he's in charge. I don't want to overstep but I'm just saying, showcase 8,000.
Okay.
I mean, if I have permission to do this. Route, Rocking on the Route 20,000. Fired Up 8,000, and then we can go up from there because we're still under, if we do 8,000. The Talking Tour 4,000. Did I say Rawhide 9,000? And then disc golf the whole $950 because
Okay, so
we're still
with the talking, well, says okay, we're jumping ahead, but okay, those, I mean, that good example though puts us right at it. So let's run through really quick though, and just because I still think there's things to. But I don't see why we.
let me ask this.
With the
talking tour, that's not really a promotional event. Couldn't that come off of executive?
good.
we can give that to the commission. It doesn't hurt to ask. The more we give to the, yeah.
Okay. What's what I was trying to, but now we're going to be jumping around to all these different things. But I was trying to take them one by one so we could really. I mean, we're doing fine on time. We could probably get this done in 15 minutes. Just know we have to also approve invoices. I think Brian's hovering outside, waiting for us. We have questions on his. But if we need, okay, so we'll say 8,000 right now for the music showcase. But that's one if we needed to cut a little bit more, we could, because it's not happening until next, June of next year. It's over a year away. So we have plenty of time to come back to them. So we could conceivably cut that one in half for now, and just knowing that we're going to come back to them. So again, I'm stressing, I do not want to send the wrong message to them, but they would know that with that caveat that we would be revisiting our budget in September and making adjustments at that time. Okay, so Rawhide Days, 12,000. You had them at 9.
Yes, that's what they took this past year.
That's what they went.
That's what they did this past year. I just did 9,000. Oh no, I'm sorry, they had 12,000.
Yeah, they had 12 last year. So again, that's not till May, so that could be less.
I put 9,000 just for talking points, but we could put 9,000. Then if we're under the budget, we can add to it.
We'll say, okay, let's go with 9,000 for now. Okay. Rockland 66, we're saying 20 for the moment.
Then again, it's end of June.
Yes, it's the very last.
What do you come up with?
53,650, not counting chamber.
You can carry Main Street, so
And that's taking $4,000 from the talking tour.
I would say fired up for fired up. Say we go with the 10. That's coming up September, along with Wheels on Fire. I think that's a very, very important weekend. And that could be, if
The thing about
summer is
Fired Up,
bad, it's gonna be the kick, the event that brings us back.
she usually doesn't use all of her money. And I know it's growing every year. It's one of our biggest events. But like I said, she don't spend it all anyway.
Well, she only needs 9 for Fired Up.
Yeah, 9 for Fired Up,
Then she
1,000
has the
for this
one-
October.
Could we hold the decision on that 1,000?
I think
Do we need to? I mean, she's.
Well, I think we'll be
as long as
under,
we're-
so I mean, go ahead and give them 10.
Well, if we're trying to make this October weekend something cohesive, that's marketable. Because what happened last year was all these events were happening that no one communicated, so they're all happening at once, but no one knew the others were doing them. And we had this weekend where all this stuff was going on, and
That'd have been a good marketing week.
so for $1,000 to spend on trying to pull all that together.
Okay, just for conversation, give them the whole 10,000. We're still gonna be under.
Okay, that takes us. I feel like I've skipped something.
I
Oh,
think,
no, 4,000 talking tour. Talking tour, I don't know, it could. I still think it could be for like the advertising ask. I don't think it requires its own ad. I think it can be incorporated into Cook and Carry general advertising. I think until it's up and running and we know it's working and we know it's fully functional and a value that we don't. She's already put a full or a unique ad in New Mexico 66 magazine. I'd like to see it get off the ground before we throw too much. Well, plus we need to know when she's, because this goes fiscal year, if it doesn't happen this summer, it would definitely happen by next year.
would you be okay with 3,000?
Yeah.
Still be under because
I'm still saying that'd be one to recommend from executive session.
Yeah.
From the executive side.
Well, but the executive, so that you help with the equipment and the initial setup, would you think it would still be?
Is it, she even said that this isn't necessarily a promotional item, we're just looking to get it promoted.
Well-
It's not so it's kind of.
we could take it up, yeah, but I agree with Mr. DePlantis. put it in executive, 4,000, I mean, I know you're worried about the committee, but still, I think you could still have 25,000 to start that committee. And I know that's not even on the agenda for today, but
Because actually what it's gonna be used for, I don't think it was for promotion, what she said, it's to get with the radio station, have cuts and things and some more equipment, things of that nature.
Yeah, she has rack cards
Yeah.
and some other
Oh, does
things.
she?
But,
Promotional.
I mean, it could come from either. We'll still be under budget.
I just think there should be, it's a great idea and I like it. I just think it can be incorporated into something bigger. It doesn't need to be its own separate thing out there. With this, at least not right now. I think it could be, it could grow. But I think to launch it, yeah, it could kind of be, it could even be part of it, yeah, this committee. It could be part of their work to help foster it, grow it. So I don't know, we could cut it back or just, we give them enough for
You could launch it.
rack
$2,000,
cards.
though.
Yeah, I think two, because
$2,000 would launch it.
she's asking for almost 500 for rack cards, 200 promotional stickers, some mailing, postage, web hosting. Yeah, I think 2,000 would be fine.
2,000?
Yeah,
That would get it going.
All right.
and then they can look
That's
further
even better.
funding.
Yeah.
From executive. Okay. So which one? So yeah, I agree. Disc golf.
Yeah, I think disc golf, they're asking for, I mean, yes, they're gonna get 100% of their costs, but it's small. Those, I mean, the city spent so much money on the stuff out there. We need to use it. We need to advertise it. We need to, in my opinion, to get it going. When tourists are coming through, they're always writing on the Facebook page, hey, is anybody playing disc golf today? So I think $950 is not much to ask for this committee for the disc golf. So I'm strongly pushing for the $950 for disc golf. Dr. Al said okay too.
Let's give them a start and let's see what they could do.
You guys, my calculation, we're at 57,650.
Okay.
So, I would like,
So we got 4,000.
so what did we cut that's coming up soon though? We gave Fired Up.
We gave them the whole 10.
We, gave
I mean,
Raw Days less. Again, so we covered everything that's coming up soon, right? I mean, well, we didn't get the full amount to the reunion, but, 4,000 is fair. We gave full amount to Wheels on Fire. Okay, so that, and we still did 8,000 for Showcase.
You could, if you wanted to, get a couple more grand.
If we were gonna do that, I would say split it between New Mexico Music. and
That's not till June. What did I just say? So we still have.
we still have 4,000. I mean, I think we can be 4,000 under, make this presentation to the commission. And we can say in September, hey, look, we were 4,000 under what y'all gave us. We're having a better summer than expected. Can we get these?
We could. I mean, what we're working with is already a super conservative. I mean, 70,000 less than last year. So we're already working with a very conservative number.
And technically that four grand, actually, if it all works out well, could be 18,800.
Yes. I know that it's at the very end of the fiscal year, but another thing to think about would be definitely a sign of goodwill for Rocket Route 66. We still need to address this current year and the $3,500 that they're short. I was going to say that for May. discussed this before, and he ain't from around here, I get that. I'm not either, you're not, Al's not. We're, well, you're not really either. I still will will continue to push that we are, we need to be 100% behind that event. We need to show our support for it and not, you've heard what he's saying. He's all in, he loves Duke and Jerry, truly does care about the city and promoting it. And it's all these events are great. This one's has potential to be really big. The ties of the Route 66 are strength. The fact that he's working to make it the premier New Mexico Route 66 festival that's huge. I didn't know he was doing that.
I mean, to be honest with you, there's no reason why we can't fund the whole amount without the chamber. I mean, like I said, this was easy when you take the chamber.
You're talking about this year, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Not next year.
For this current fiscal year, like I said, I was saving this for May. It didn't have to be done today, but I would like to find 3,500 to fund this year's event, yes, if it happens. Which we should have now that we've had events canceled, so that shouldn't be a problem. But for next year, I think it would just be a show of, show of good faith that we're 100% behind it, that we're supporting it, and that we're, I mean, he's spending it wisely. He's doing good work. He's getting high caliber entertainment into town. I think the turnout last year was probably the low end of expectations, but I think, like anything, we have to keep the momentum going. We have to, if it does miss, if we do skip this year, it's even more important that next year that we're really, really behind it, because it's almost like relaunching it. I don't know. That's rough.
I think after September 1st, we discussed for the next year, but this year, I have to concur, but I think in the interest of, last year we could have easily said there's a chance, I know he's gonna lose some sponsors this year. I can't really sponsor much right now. I'm hanging on to everything I've got tooth and nail. And that's not to say there's probably other businesses do that. Again, this is just a recommendation. Why not try to get 5? That way he's got more promotion money. Because it's gonna take a lot once, if the governor lets us kick things off and start going to the way things were, he's got 2 months to get people from being scared anymore.
You're talking about this June's event?
This June's event.
5,000.
If, I don't know, we gotta see if the 4th.
Oh, yeah.
If anything, I watch Pawn Stars. You always shoot high to get what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, I understand they bring a lot of people that was low end, but hey, we can revisit in September. Hey, look, we're going to give you possibly I'm sure everybody on this board we might possibly give them 5,000 to finish up this year.
Yes.
And that'd be a good gesture. And then for next year's budget, let's revisit in September.
Well, it'll at least help for at least 2 sponsors that he's probably lost this year because of the economy. People are hanging on. We're hanging on to what we got, and we don't even know how many people are going to be willing to get out now. So I think that would be something I would recommend to present.
I agree. We can vote on that in May. Because I don't have that on the agenda, so we can't take any action on it today. But I think for now, again, as a show of good faith for next year and continuing on, we would love to hear that we're totally on board. And then we come back, everybody else will get New Mexico Music Showcase will get their full amount. We'll make that a priority.
So if we add that $3,500 for route, we'll still be under the 61.5, right?
Yeah. I believe so, right? Because we have them at, so that would be 3,500 additional, right?
Right.
Or wait.
I mean,
Where my brain starts.
I'm almost ready to make a motion for this.
Yeah, so 23.5, so that would be, so we take this at 23.5. Like I said, I mean, it's not, I feel like I'm always having to defend this. It's not to discount other events, but they're not already thinking about next year and down the road. He's working ahead, already lining up things for next year. So why not support that? And then when we come back around September, like, again, make it very clear to the Music Showcase group and to Rawhide Days that we will be revisiting this in plenty of time before they really start planning, because sounds like Showcase, they're basically carrying over what they planned this year to next.
Right.
So they've already, they already have that in place, but they won't be promoting or doing anything before September.
I think you're preaching to the choir. I think everybody's on board.
Okay. Well, I don't want to preach, so.
So what are your final numbers?
We had. They're wrong. So, calculation.
Oh, and I think we need to make it clear that we need to give a recommendation to the commission on the chamber, how much they want to spend in the executive side. But for this, I guess we can have a total. We do 25,000.
Yeah, I just don't think we have to do that now, because I think the chamber has access funds for this current fiscal year. I think if those are wisely used and not just, they're not under the impression they have to spend it by the end of June, just this rush spend.
Right.
For unnecessary materials. I just don't see printing these maps and visitor guides. I don't see that as being essential right now.
Okay.
We're okay with what we have, and we wait it out. We see if June, it doesn't take that long to have these printed. I mean,
right.
If we see that the band's lifted and everyone's back out on the road, we can, those can be ordered in, May, and we'll have them plenty of time for June, whenever. But I think we can make the recommendation that when the chamber does require additional funding, that she's presenting that as an executive request.
Yeah.
And not promotional. And that it's also in concert with the tourism committee.
Right.
I think that's how that should go. So we can present it that way.
Okay.
That
I'm
sound
okay with that.
good? And I have, what's my number? So we still, I say we just go ahead and figure out this 450 that's left, $450. How about another sign of good faith? We award disc golf even 1,000.
Well, I think so.
And then we take that leaves us $300, and we just tag that on to somebody. Personally, I'd give it to Wheels on Fire, just give them an even 4,000. But I guess we don't want to make a habit of giving people more than they ask for. We can either New Mexico, either the Showcase or Rawhide Days, we give them additional 300 for now. How about that? Rawhide comes first on the calendar. So I want to say 9,300 for Rawhide Days.
Yes, sir.
And that should make it right at 61.5. Is that okay?
Yeah,
So-
I'm good. What's the final numbers?
61.5.
You went
Okay,
up,
here
you
we
went
go.
up to 4 on wheels, right?
No, I didn't. I
No.
was kind of talking out loud, but that's probably a precedent we don't want to set. is
What, talking out loud?
People, well, we don't want to in general give people more than they ask for. With disc golf, it's their first time. They've already done a ton of work. It's $50 more. It's
Yeah.
not huge. Because he really doesn't know how much all this will cost. I mean, it could be,
And he was worried about, I mean, I'm glad he's worried about the safety of the county because that's important now.
Yeah.
So,
I want to support that, I really do. When I thought it was late, it was just so much already to go through and read, and it was like, oh crap, another application. And it's just frustrating. It's been a long, honestly, since I got back into town, it's been.
So are we ready to make a motion?
Let's go through to make sure we're all on the same page. So okay, Wheels on Fire, 3,700. Rattler Reunion, 4,000.
This is 4,000. Okay.
New Mexico Music Showcase, 8,000.
8,000.
Rockin' Route 66, 23,500. Fired Up, 10,000. Who Can Carry Talking Tour, 2,000.
2,000, okay.
Rawhide Days, 9,300. And Disc Golf, Shootout, that would be 1,000.
Was it Rawhide 93?
9,300 for Rawhide. Again, making very clear to the events further in the future that they will very likely get the full amount they requested.
You said disc golf was 1,000, right?
1,000.
Yeah.
And then chamber's gonna be pushed to executive.
Chamber, we're going to
And then
propose when Todd's back. So we got our numbers. Are you still following this, Mark? Are you
Well,
able to hear us?
In and out as I can.
Okay.
I asked them to come by before we go through with, have you already voted?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I just went through.
I just wanna, and I asked Mark to come in here, so we have to clarify, because I'm one person and we've got 4 more. When it comes down to the chamber stuff, what if it's not approved to go to executives, go from? the
well, we're not
executive side?
approving anything from the chamber because
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Well, right now
they have money left over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
right now we're going to propose regarding the Chamber of Commerce that the access funds that they currently have for the current fiscal year, which is substantial, from what Rochelle just told us. I don't think I wrote the number down.
14,000.
Okay, so they have quite a bit of money left unspent for this year. We are advising that they use that money, extend that out into at least first quarter of the new fiscal year. So through July, August, September. And that when needed, they present to the commission for executive funding in concert with the tourism committee, which Carmen will be part of. And because what we're looking at the request, the concerns are that money used for reprinting certain materials such as visitor guides and mural maps. Do we necessarily need those for this year? We still have access of previously published materials that are still that can still be used. The visitor guide she just updated last year, so it's current. Mural map needs to be updated, but is it wise to do it right now as opposed to waiting until the branding style guide process is done by this tourism task force? So we're just looking at how money's being spent. Is there enough to continue? She should have enough to continue with the current advertising planned in place with the magazines that currently carry ads. Should have enough for that. Should have enough to continue as is for now until we know more what this tourism season is going to look like. Because what we're going to avoid is spending money on print materials that end up sitting in boxes never used in a storage room, which is what Carmen inherited when she took on the chamber, was boxes of materials that were outdated. So we want to make sure that with the current situation, that money spent for advertising and marketing is spent wisely, efficiently.
So I'd like to make, I guess, a few points. In my opinion, this recommendation comes solely from lodger's tax. I'm not going to try to tell you how to disperse the funds. I just want to bring up a few things to keep in mind. One reason potentially, and I'm just kind of looking at it from a larger perspective. I'm not trying to persuade one way or the other for chamber, but I can see where some funding is held back to a point to the last quarter, because that's where you're really pushing right before the tourist season. So I don't believe you have to spend all your money in accordance like we typically would with the city budget. I'm not saying that's the case with this. I'm just something to consider. The other thing that I like to point out, like Commissioner Duplantis was saying, we can't completely bank on the commission approving that out of the executive side. To let you all know, on a proposal, we're putting together the preliminary budget right now, and we plan on having a special work session with the commission, with department heads, finance, and myself to discuss the budget of the city moving forward. We're all impacted by this current COVID situation going on. One of the things that I will be proposing, and just to let you all know as a lodger's tax board, because I know that the commission values your opinion, I'm looking at utilizing some of the executive side funding to try to push through a full-time marketer again, like we tried to do previously. That kind of changed. It went into an intern position. I'd like to see somebody full-time. And where I was planning to use some of those funds was, for example, the contract amount we did have with Sunny 505. And with that, I'd expect that position to pick up and help us heavily with the convention center. That's something that's underutilized, undermarketed. And I would like to use that as a proposal to the city commission and let you all know as a lodger's tax that that's going to be part of my proposal for budget coming up, whether it's next week or the week after when we discuss it. Just to keep that in consideration, we still have, of course, the convention center note that we have to pay on still. We'll be paying that off next fiscal year, so that'll help free up some money. But along with that, it is getting older, so we do need to still continue, in my opinion, to a portion, continue to provide funding to renovate the convention center. We've started making some changes within the last year or so, and I like to continue with that to make it a really attractive venue, so we are bringing in more people to conventions and whatnot. But that's something to keep in mind, just that you know that's how I'm going to be planning to move forward on this next budget.
So does the position for the tourism, it would be an internship?
No, this would be a full-blown marketing
like
position.
Director of tourism.
Director of tourism for the city and for the Tucumcari as whole. It wouldn't be as much as the chamber is geared to where it's individual entities. It's going to be Tucumcari as a whole. It's working with Main Street and getting this rebrand thing kicked off. That would be the central person to coordinate a lot of this instead of having to go through the chamber, where it's not Carmen's responsibility to do what she's doing now. She's been nice to pick that up, but we need someone designated to the city that's going to do that. I'd expect them to be at all of our local events, out there posting on social media, helping promote some of the local events. It's going to be more event-wise and city-based than so much specific businesses. Specific businesses may be on there time to time to promote. But it's something I think we need as a whole. And like I said, it's also going to be heavily involved with the convention center to help promote that, because that's one place that we've had some concerns in the past. It's gotten to me, the feedback, and I would like to utilize our assets to the highest potential. And I think by bringing in this marketing person, it would be a great opportunity for the city as well as Tucumcari as a whole.
Okay. Oh, that's exciting. I love that. Okay. Well, it sounds like, though, that makes even more of the case for what we're doing, if I'm understanding right.
To a point, and the reason why I wanted to let you know my plan moving forward, I'm not saying my plan would get approved, but we need to be conscientious about how we're distributing funds, because if we say we're going to give 20,000, we're banking on that out of executive. Now that 20,000 gets out of this budget for this marketer. So I think to get somebody of quality, we're going to have to pay decent. like I said, this is preliminary. This is nowhere set in stone. I was throwing out, if we're willing to pay 7505 $50,000, let's start there for this position.
I mean, if you're paying somebody 50,000, how much is like insurance and all that? I mean, does it
And-
cost 50,000 to?
So that's where we'd have to get creative, and we'd have to talk, myself and the finance director, myself and the commission. Do we want a base salary of 50,000, or is 50,000 going to include benefits? Because that does take into account, it's quite a bit for insurance, for PEAR retirement, and whatnot. So it adds up in a hurry.
So, I mean, we really wouldn't, if we do that, we wouldn't even have to pay the chamber anything.
I believe we still would, to a point, because they still need to take care of the chamber and what the chamber does. We may not need to fund them as much, but like I said, we'd have to talk. This is real preliminary, but I don't want to jump into it without having my ducks in a row. I like to make sure I have all the data put in place, and we make some good educated decisions, not just jump into it.
We only have 5 people watching on Facebook or on YouTube. We only have 5 people watching on YouTube.
It's all right though, because it's archived and people could always go back and watch it.
Depends on what 5 people are watching.
It was probably rawhide.
No. So I still say we move forward. And is it possible that, okay, once, if these things happen, if they're approved and everything passes, then Carmen can resubmit application on behalf of the chamber for funding more in line with what she would be doing. Because I don't disagree that the largest tax funding could still support the chamber to some degree. It just depends on what capacity and how it would affect tourism. And that would have to be determined, because that will be changing, regardless of how it happens, it will be changing this year. So there's still money left over from the current fiscal year that the chamber is already collecting monthly payments. Let that sustain efforts, at least for the immediate future, until we know what this year is really going to look like. That's kind of where we're at. There's a lot of uncertainty, so it's really hard to say anything for sure, but I think we're all in agreement that lodgers tax funding should really be helping our events, stay afloat and keep moving forward.
And I completely agree with that. I'm not sure if Rochelle explained to a point how we're expecting to move forward with this. So any funding that wouldn't be spent out of this fiscal year would roll over into the cash balance, not necessarily to the individual groups. But I think y'all can make recommendations to a point that with that cash balance, we could then redistribute later on, like say in September, like Commissioner Duplantis was saying.
Yes, I believe that would be the
It's just, it's weird times right now with this COVID going on. And we were really conservative with our projections because we had, of course, limited travel. It was reduced. And then now putting that restraint on our lodging from 50% capacity and 25%, we really don't know what we're going to end up with. So we'd have a little bit better educated guess come closer to September. This is more of a preliminary that, hey, let's support our events. Let's see what we're kind of looking at possibly moving forward with. But ultimately, we're going to have to really look at this again in the coming months to be better at distributing funds instead of just making some decisions right now. These help, but we'll have to fine tune it.
Okay. So right now we would send the message that we are behind our events, the teams that are planning, because there's uncertainty with them for sure. I mean, there's, we've heard many of them say this, similar things that they're, it's really hard to try to plan anything right now. So we want to throw them our support. I think this is still the plan, and we just be clear. So the chamber would they be required to give unused funds back at the end of the fiscal year, and then we would opt to?
Well, they get a monthly check.
get
So
it back, I guess.
that's not how I'd like to continue to move business as far as receiving a monthly check. I wasn't really
Yeah,
aware of that. I feel they should be held to the same standards as everybody else, more of a reimbursement or at least an invoice. To me, that's almost making it look like the chamber's on our payroll and we're paying them like an employee. That's not the case.
Yes.
It should be equal for everybody. If everybody else is a reimbursement type deal, then it should be the same for them as well.
But for this year, this current year, say if we opt not to allot any funding for the coming fiscal year, then we just say the money you have left over should be used for the next few months until we can revisit this in the committee disposition. All this is worked out, then, but I think it's enough to sustain current efforts.
We could keep that balance. Like I said, it'd roll over for auditing purposes, financial purposes. You'll go into the cash, but we could say, yes, you have, I'm just throwing a flat number, you have $10,000 left over. Well, then the Lodgers Tax would say, okay, next year, this 10,000 is going back to the chamber. I'd say that the city practice immediately, we stop an automatic check to them each month and we say this stops. You ask for reimbursement, whatever you don't spend goes into cash. We look at that balance at the end of the fiscal year and we could roll that over to next year for you if we have to.
We stop that now, or do we wait till after the end of the fiscal year?
I'd say till the end of the month, honestly.
Really?
I mean, if something's been sent out for April, that's done. For May and June, we do not send an automatic check. There's no need to unless we're receiving invoices for reimbursement.
Okay. Okay. All right. We lost Al. Yeah. Emergency surgery. Okay. Okay, so because he was here for this, so we'll go back through the numbers really quickly. So where we ended was full 3,700 for Wheels on Fire, 4,000 for Rattler Reunion, 8,000 for New Mexico Music Showcase, the full 23,500 for Rockin' Route 66, the full 10,000 for Fired Up, 2,000 for the Talking Tour, 9,300 for Rawhide Days, and even 1,000 for
9,300 for Rawhide?
9,300. And bumped disc golf up to 50, just gave him a full 1,000, even 1,000 for his efforts. So that takes us to 61.5. That's completely cutting out chamber for now. I guess that's where we need to be.
I mean, I could wait for Al, but
And we'll wait for Al.
I think Larry did very, very good job figuring those numbers out.
And again, another thing I like to reiterate, I didn't catch every bit and piece of the meeting. There's some technical difficulties now and again, but if there happens to be more money than projected, I'm totally open. It's not my decision. It's more up to you all and to the commission, but with recommending that come September, if there are more funds available to help out those events,
Yes.
we're able to reallocate at that time.
Yes.
If for some crazy mishap and we don't have even the 61.5, then we would have to go back as well and recalculate at that time. Either way, I feel we're going to have to follow up first meeting of September.
Yeah, we're in total agreement, and everyone is really, if not at their ask, very close to it. So we would revisit the events, locally produced events that are further in the fiscal year. So Rawhide Days is May and Mexico Music Showcase is in June of next year. So we would revisit those two for sure. Everything else is as it stands. So, all right. Do I need to read that again, or we all have it?
Al, you have it?
Let me double triple make sure.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so Rawhide, 9,300. Columbus Club, 8,000. Fired Up, 10,000. Rattler, 4,000. Rockin' on Route, 23.5. Wheels on Fire, 37. Disc Golf, 1,000. Chambers pending. Walking Tours, 2,000. Remaining portion is executive side.
Right.
Finals, 61.5. Okay, I
I
will, call for a motion to approve the budget as just stated. Mike gives the motion.
Yep.
Have a second? Okay. I don't know if Lila's still with us. I feel terrible if she's not, but catch her up. Indication is, I don't know what R is. That's all I see.
That's Rochelle. So right now it's just showing, you all here as the board and Rochelle. There's nobody else on the go-to. The remainder of the viewers would be on YouTube.
Well, we still have 4, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll catch up with Lila. And then, I know 1:30, we were doing well.
We were.
No, we're behind again. We got it knocked out really quick. I'll get this written up and I'll send it to you and the 2 of you and we'll do the board. So it's final. Okay. Quick reimbursement approvals needed. Rock 166 is the one I was able to send out. In lieu of a deposit, he was asked to submit invoices. So he had talked to Britt, I believe, a couple weeks ago and submitted the invoice. Anybody have any questions on that? This is $5,000 for this current fiscal year. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, for Rawhide Days, this is the money that TJ mentioned that was already in play before, just right before all this came crashing down. So, and she wasn't able to make an electronic copy. She'll let this be distributed earlier. It's, total of $2,135.90 for, let's see, $295.90 for a certified folder display, $640 for AAA magazine, as she mentioned, so $640 for that, $500 to New Mexico magazine, an ad, and then $500 to Will Sims as the webmaster, and then $200 art forms. Assuming printing up the rack cards that were around town. She's got all the documentation. Examples if anybody needs to see. I know you've seen it out.
Yep.
So you guys want to take a quick look, see if you have any questions.
So how much would she have spent if we approve this?
She was at,
It's like 3,300, isn't it?
yeah, she was only at like 10% of her funding used, so this will push her expense. $1,200 is what she had spent so far for $12,000.
I'll make a motion to approve that 21, whatever it is.
Okay, for a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Right, those are passed. I'll let Rochelle know that. I believe that is all our next. So we will not have a regular meeting next week. Give us all a break. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 6th, 10 o'clock. So does it right now work for everyone? Okay. Okay. All right, with that, motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I can't make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen, much less painful than last year.
Yes, I think we